Okay. All right. We're live. Folks, I'm just before I do the quick introduction. Well, actually, let me do that now, and actually, maybe he can introduce himself while I'm adding this link to the rest of my social media pages to get out there. Because as you folks know, YouTube's not helping me out in that regard. But yeah, this is my son Matthew Hunter, and some of you are obviously already probably well aware. And I've had a few of you have been asking about the podcast and if they'll ever be coming back. And actually, I had one gentleman. He's watched all of our podcasts that we've ever done. I was actually really, really amazed and surprised. He said, "I'd love to see some more." So, anyways, today, like I say, I want to bring my son onto this podcast in particular for this topic because it's something that both resonates with him and I both. And I want him to convey his message on that. He goes by obviously Matthew Hunter, but he has his own YouTube channel as well, Anarchist Podcast. If you want
to I started a new one, Matthew Hunter. Just find me on
right.
Matthew Hunter.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so anyways, Matt, if you want to just, like I said, give yourself a quick little introduction there and get familiarized with the folks here as they start to trickle in. I know it'll take a couple minutes, but I'm just going to share this with my page here real quick, these links.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, my name is Matthew Hunter. Like I said, Ben Hunter's son, and we've been into this stuff, philosophy and anarchism now, and activism for over 10 years now. And yeah, I just feel that, I have to be a voice to truth. And I kind of do podcasts, not as regular as my father, but I like to put them out whenever I get the opportunity. And I'm going to try to be more regular about it. But I guess my reason behind why I feel I need to get on a camera and talk about these things is, in the moment, most people truly aren't going to be respected in the moment, just the same way that Aristotle or Plato or Jesus at the time, all these people who are pushing futuristic ideas and ideas of peace in those times were actually hated and scorned by majority of the population. So when I do a video or do a podcast, I ain't even, as much as I enjoy talking to you guys and the listeners right now, I'm also in the back of my mind thinking that I'm talking to the future generations, the people who will respect these ideas later on once the Enlightenment happens. The same way, if you tried to tell someone slavery was wrong in the years that slavery was happening, they'd be like, well, what do you mean? No, it's not wrong. Where we now can look back through history on those times and reflect on that and say, those were bad times, those were immoral acts. The same way that people are going to look back at our times and say, wow, government was a failed institution. Why did we give people the get out of jail free card that they have the right to commit immoral acts when the normal population don't, theft, murder, taxes, and stuff like that. So I just look at it like, at least I want to go down in history and I want to be remembered. And people, when they look back at all of our social media posts in history, that, hey, I wasn't for this. I didn't support it. I've been speaking out against it. And I want to make that heavily known because, one of the major things that I believe the older generations have failed the youth is educating us on the principles of philosophy and freedom and all these other things, and failed us, obviously, in standing up on the encroachment of our liberties, to the point now where it's getting so much in our face that we're almost like you see in a revolution today. So I just want to play my part, just like my father's playing his part. And we're going to get into some very heavy topics today, and it's going to be a very interesting one. So I'll pass it back to him.
Oh, that was great, Matt. Thanks. But yeah, actually, before I get too far into it, what I usually do, I just check and see who's actually in the stream here and say hi. So just give me a sec there, Matt. So we got Canadian Clay. Thanks for joining the stream, Canadian Clay. It looks like you got a few choice plants there. Hopefully only 4, right? No, just kidding. Do your thing. But yeah, that's a nice picture you got there. Anyways, we got Libitas, I believe is, or Ibitas. Hi all, how you doing today? Tommy Gunn, I see Tommy Gunn's in the stream. Molana Abe, no, Labe. All the hello, folks, and nice to see you in the stream there, Tommy. What is he saying? Will not comply. Yes, I will not comply. 1776. God damn. Oh, it's nice to see Missy in the chat. Hey, how you doing, Missy? Hi, all. Hope you're having a great Sunday. I sure am. And now that you're in the stream, it's cheered up. I've cheered up that little bit more, Missy. Matt, you're not familiar with Missy, but we just kind of met up with each other fairly recently online, and she's just awesome. She helps so much with the help, like even in the chat, like because I can't obviously pay attention to everything when I'm doing my streams, but Missy's on the ball, and she's usually right there and behind the scenes and helping, like pointing out for people to share and like. So like I say, thanks for joining the stream again there, Missy. Really appreciate that. Dear James or Dean James, never comply, right? got to show a little resolve. You got to show a little bit of backbone from time to time. And this is exactly one of those times that needs to take place. The Anarchist, nice to see you in the stream. Good evening, chatters. What's happening? And I'm sure a lot of you people that are watching the stream now, what's going on, Bennett? You're like, what, 6 or 7 hours later than you normally are. I know. And hopefully the actual the internet connection stays with us, because at this time of the day, like I was telling you folks, especially in my area, the internet gets crap, but we're hoping that'll hold out for now. I've been quite low in terms of my internet usage today, and hopefully I'll be rewarded and still be able to get a bit of bandwidth for a couple hours. Anyways, and Jerome Wong, nice to see. You know what? Very appreciative to see Jerome Wong. And actually, Jerome, I'll have to save it for the next stream, because I was actually going to do a whole stream because Jerome, another excellent gentleman that I've just recently friended, and he talks and Bennett, like father, like son. Yes, right on. But yes, Jerome Wong is another person that's very much concerned a lot of these topics and issues, and he's reached out with me in private emails, and we've had some great chats back and forth, and I'm really the kind of things he said really resonates with me, and he seems like a very passionate, upstanding person that's just like you or I, and caring a whole lot about defending the freedoms of this country. So nice to see you in the chat there, Jerome. Really appreciate that. Bennett, yes, this is my son, Missy. Yes, this is my oldest son. I have 2 sons. My youngest son is the one that does most of the gaming and the music in terms of his YouTube activity. My oldest son, Matthew, here, he's actually a kind of a chip off the old block in terms of, he identifies, I would say, you would say anarchist, though, right? Is what you would say. You're
Anarchist to its truest form, that everyone should be placed on a universal playing field.
Right. So, I mean, libertarian anarchists, as a lot of people that understand these kinds of terminologies, it's basically, when I say libertarian, I always iterate, it's a philosophical libertarian, because some people have tried to take the philosophy of liberty and politicize it, which is basically even something like the founding fathers did. It worked out great at the time, but all a modern libertarian like myself does is extrapolate from the very principles that represents libertarianism. And as we've heard expressed so many times before, once you've done that, well, it's only about 6 months, and then you're a full-on libertarian or / anarchist, however way you want to identify it. It's just, we don't believe in having rulers, right? It's not against rules. That's the thing. You hear people, when they hear the term anarchist, they automatically think, ooh, they don't believe in rules. No, actually, anarchists. That's the thing. That's where clarity of language comes in, right? Because I might have even been susceptible to that kind of information years ago. But fortunately, I'm proactive enough to sit down and look what these words actually mean, rather than just go by what other people tell me. I want to verify. And once you verify, no, it's just a matter of, no, I just don't believe in having rulers. Matthew doesn't believe, most full-grown adults, really, actually all of them, but, shouldn't believe in having rulers, right? Just like if you went back a couple 100 years and you were talking about our king, I wouldn't have recognized the king either as being my ruler, nor do I recognize Justin Trudeau or Harper before him. But anyways, forget about that stuff. Anyways, let me just get into, like I say, see a few more.
I would just add to that, when I'm talking to the sheeple, or, someone who's less politically woke out into the public, I'd like to use the term, I wouldn't come out and say I'm an anarchist, because the term's been demonized so much in the media. I would rather say I'm a voluntarist, and then get them to clarify, well, what is a voluntarist? Well, do you believe in voluntary interactions? Do you believe you should be forced into doing things? What's the difference between a rape and consensual sex? What's the difference between murder and, not murder? You start talking them through the principles, and then you can maybe get them in that way. But you just throw the term anarchism nowadays, they might think, oh, you want to go smash out windows and stuff. So be careful with the terminology, depending on who you're talking to. If you're
Right.
talking to someone who's politically, challenged, then you maybe use the term voluntarism for sure.
Yeah. No, voluntarism. Well, I remember even back in the day when I was started down learning about all these terminologies, libertarianism, but it was always 3 of them that were so closely aligned. It was anarchists, libertarians, and voluntarists. Basically, all people, with their own particular preference in how that they believe in that. But it's just people that say the same thing. Yeah, I don't believe in having rulers, right? So Go ahead.
I truly believe too that the words and how we spread the message, the wording and everything is key. So like my father just said, you got the 3 words: libertarianism, anarchism, and voluntarism. Now, each one of those have a different context and how they can be spun. Most people don't even know what the word libertarian is. Most people think anarchist means no rulers throwing bricks through windows.
Mm-hmm.
But most people understand in the English dictionary what volunteering is, voluntarism, and that kind of that. So choose your words wisely, and you'll be way more effective with the message. And that's what helped me 10 years of getting this message out, is just refining it. When I first came to the term taxation's theft at the age of 15, I was like everyone else. What do you mean? My brain started doing circles. We're paying for the greater good. This is how we got to, all chip in for society. How would we build roads? How would we build hospitals? All that stuff. So I've just learned through 10 years of studying the philosophy to, cut out the bullshit and make it very simplified. Simplified to the point that you can look at a 3-year-old and say, why is government wrong? You should be able
Yeah.
to explain it to an adult. And that's what we try to do with perfecting the philosophy.
Well said, man. And actually, the way you just said that actually makes me think, even when I was obviously raising you as a son and stuff, is even my own situation is, yes, when I thought of it, how would I, when I was raising my sons, and of course I made mistakes like every other human being, but I always would think, well, how would it, if I could go back and tell my parents what things could they have done differently in some way that might have helped me, catch up or get up to speed, rather than learn these things in my 40s, right? What would have helped me to get to that point earlier? Now I recognize there were some positive things that I had with my parents, in particular the fact that neither of them worked for the state, so there was some positive aspect. But there, like Matt was suggesting or alluding to, a lot of these things were not properly explained, so I had to learn them as an adult. But I incorporated these things once I did learn these things and realized that actually, if you do, and like what Matt is alluding to, is if you teach from very early ages consistent principles and values, rather than ones that are built on things that sound good but wholly contradictory when put into actual real world practice, that to me, then you don't have to you reinvent the wheel. It's a simple thing. Your children will grow to be well adjusted when they're children, and they'll adopt that same kind of thing into adulthood. The problem I see with so many people, whether they come from a religious background or a very status oriented background, which is, I'm just repeating myself here because it's still another form of religion, but they're taught things that sound good in theory, but once you test their hypothesis and put it into real world practice, like taxation, it's just the price to help out the poor, right? Well, no, in reality, if you think about that properly, no, you're taking money against people's will without their permission. That's theft. And if you or I did that as a private citizen, people would, hold you to account for doing an evil or a vile deed. Whereas if you turn yourself into this thing called a politician, right, and you do that with wearing a pinstripe suit or something, then people will accept that as now it's something legitimate. And that confuses the human mind. Once you've taught people from a very early age to think that I should restrain myself, because you're always taught as a child, you want to restrain yourself from doing these bad things. Don't hit, don't steal, don't, all these bad things that we're taught not to do. Don't rape, right? But then you see it constantly practiced by people that say that they shouldn't do these things, then you realize the hypocrisy of it all. And that is a terrible thing. Like I have even myself experienced and lived that in my own personal life. And I realized how detrimental not only was it for my mind, not just growing up, but even for anyone else or my kids' mind as they were growing up themselves. So to me, what we have to do going forward, and I think this is the most important thing that people in this, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, a community, a movement, or people that just care about personal liberties, is we got to get the point where the messaging is clear and concise, and these principles are universalized to the point where you have generations of people being born, raised, and educated to understand these concepts properly. Anyways, I know I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there. Oh, let me just say to Rainy Steps there, that's why I brought that up. Sorry, Rainy, I forgot that was kind of rambling there, but thanks for your donation, $2.79. Appreciate that. Hello, Bennett. Coffee on me. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So go ahead, Matt.
Most people would ask people like my father or people in the liberty movement, like, what's the goal? What's the goal of the movement? And our main focus should be to, like we've been saying here, to refine the effectiveness of communication. So we want to get people to understand the word anarchism and liberty and freedom and the concepts behind universalizing these principles the same way that we understand gravity, the same way that we understand 2 + 2 = 4. It just comes down to a science, the scientific method. So when you start going, hey, well, it's not okay to hit, why then is it okay to hit a child? Why then okay is it to hit once a police officer's enforcing some rule against a peaceful person? It's trying to get things broken down to their simplest form. So that's what we need to be focused in on, especially, I see a lot of the liberty movement now getting into the weeds of drama. And I know it stirs up a lot of views. It's an easy way to get clicked, each week covering whatever whatever the story is, Trump this or that, Russia Gate, the riots, and it's the story of the day. It's what everyone's clicking on. So a lot of us content creators do videos for that reason, because we're going to get the clicks, we're going to get the views, we're going to get the revenue. But in all reality, when we just get out here and we start talking about the weeds and we start debating this and that and talking about what's right and wrong and the riots and all that, we're not focused on the main key issue here, which is, you want to get rid of all the police brutality across the nation. Well, you need to get rid of the monopoly that the police forces have on the service. The fact that police forces are only able to be run by government agencies, right? There's no competitors in the market. There's no one saying, hey, such and such private company wants to open up a policing agency, and we will go in and protest Minneapolis, and we promise to do a better job, and then let's give them the contract, vice versa. If you're paying for it voluntarily out of your pocket, that's going to eliminate a lot of the police brutality problems. So people are rioting, people are burning stuff down, people are angry and frustrated because they don't know true solutions. They don't know true answers. And, I see videos going viral of, it's a black gentleman in his like 70s or 60s, and he's yelling and he's looting, and it's a black gentleman in his 30s, and it's a black gentleman at the age of 16. And the video is showing the different generations. And basically what they're trying to tell the 16-year-old is, find a better solution. We had the Martin Luther King civil rights movement. We've been doing this for I don't know how many years, and you know what? The problem continues to create itself. We're not getting any further in life, and we're not going to get any further in life until we get to the root of the problem, which is the monopoly on the police service that the government holds.
Yeah, actually, I just brought that up, Matt, because now that you brought that particular topic up, so that people can see here in the stream that, yeah, my son just did it, and it's on his YouTube channel, as you can see. Let me scroll down just a little bit, because I know it's a little bit harder to see. But yeah, so Matthew Hunter, the new channel that he just started, if you want to check that out, it's a 17-minute video, but basically talk about what he's talking or what he's discussing right now. And I think he did a real good job actually pointing some of this stuff out, because like I say, folks, there are solutions. There are definitely potential solutions to get us out from these kind of issues that we're dealing with, but it requires big ideas and a tremendous amount of thinking. And at the end of the day, it really does come down to nobody. I don't care. Like I say, that's the thing. Whether you identify as left or right, in your heart of heart, in your mind, that given anybody, I don't care who they are, the pretense of that much power or authority over ultimately millions of people, it's never been a good idea in history. And to think, like, no matter how well adapted or evolved humans become, it's still not going to be a good idea to ever give that much power to any person, because power has a corrupting nature. Even someone you trust tremendously still has the potential, because we're all fallible human beings, to use that power for the wrong reasons. So that is really what it comes down to at the day, is you have to, people constantly talk. I mean, it's the left that's always talking about diversify, right? Well, diversify then, right? Don't rely on one giant monopoly of force or violence as an ultimate means to the end, and pretend that they're going to be the benevolent actors that are just going to be these, like I say, benevolent referees that are just going to do the right thing for all times, because that's never been the case in history. It sure as shit is not the case today. And it's actually proven to be quite detrimental. And it's not just to the black community. Actually, before we even get too much into this whole thing, the one thing I want to iterate now is take race completely out of it. Now, right now, it was a black gentleman down in the U.S. that definitely, suffered, what happened with the knee of that officer on him that, killed that man. And it's a terrible thing. But at the end of the day, whether he was white or black, these cops have that kind of, they're trained to have an authoritarian mindset these days. They're not trained. They're not even called peace officers. So they're given, and they're called law enforcement. They're given training, and they're basically told, or during their training, they're basically given the idea that the public, they're there to control the public and to, basically escalate tensions rather than de-escalate. Because back in the day, 50, 60 years ago, when they were considered peace officers, it was all about de-escalating the situation. Today, that no longer takes place. Everything is all about escalating the situation. And no matter what you do under any circumstance or situation, if you're going to escalate tensions in an already heightened tense situation, bad things are going to happen. Just because it doesn't happen all the time does not mean that the potential isn't there, right? I mean, you can get lucky many times. And that actually what's happened when people say, oh, there's good cops, There's more good cops than there are bad cops. Well, how do you know that? Do you follow these cops all day, every day? Or is it just that your encounter with the cops on that particular day where you kissed their ass or licked their boots or said, yes, sir, no, sir, or ma'am, or whoever, man or woman? But did you challenge their authority in any way? Because that's the point. Like, to be like the most conformist slave, right, is probably not the one that you would say complains about having a master. The conformist slave might be the type of person that would say, shh, right? Don't say nothing to piss off the master. They might whip us even more. So I don't really care for the opinion. Now, I'm totally open to listen to those people's opinion. But if someone comes at me and tries to play this excuse or this narrative where the police are somehow benevolent actors, I would just ask them, okay, would you yourself go into a position where you're required every day to enforce laws that you know full well, and we all know there are laws on the book, and there has been, even with the legalization of cannabis, there's still, as we know, actually with the legalization under the Trudeau Liberals, there are now 14 criminal charges as opposed to only a few prior to legalization. So no, people can still be charged, and we're seeing they're even using the violence of the state to enforce people that open up cannabis businesses without a government approved license. So all they did in terms of try to legalize cannabis, they didn't decriminalize it to the point where, okay, you can do that because it's a victimless crime. No, they did it so they could selectively pick who gets to be, those who are part and parcel of the ruling class or get to be the distributors, right? And a lot of them are these very police officers like Bill Blair, or what's the other guy, one of the major guys of the Toronto police force. But a lot of these guys are getting into the drug action. They spent their whole lives, and these are adults, right? These aren't children. These are people that realize they spent most of their adult careers putting people behind bars or causing them economic hardships or punitive actions or criminalize them so that they lose opportunity in terms of jobs or occupations. They spent the entire bulk of their career causing harm to people who have done no harm to anyone else just because they were doing a voluntary exchange for cash and a plant. But now they're willing to get in, and now that the government said, oh, it's legal, they're like, oh, well, apparently now they've changed their whole precept of what legality and morality is. Well, that tells you whether that person treated you good during a traffic stop and you said, hey, I'm really sorry that I did that. And the guy said, okay, I'll give you a break. That's still the same guy, or like I say, or a female cop, that on any given day, if you challenge that authority, or if you were smoking a little bit of reefer or had a little plant there beside your or on the passenger seat, you had some, something that they could see there's residue, or you had a bag of weed on the path, they would still go after you. So these are people that already have an authoritarian mindset. And because we now function in a realm where the government has said you have to enforce these rules, where there are no victims, where there should be no crime, the kind of people that go into those positions, you can't use the excuse anymore. Oh, why do we got 2 more streams opening up? How the hell did that happen? Do you see that? Who's doing that? What the hell? Do you see that, Matt? What's going on here? Okay, let's see what's going on here. Okay, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
What happened? What the hell happened there?
Our message is too effective. They're shutting us down.
Oh, but that was weird. I just seen you opened up in 2 new fresh windows here in because on your end, you don't get to see this because I'm the host of it. But yeah, I just opened up 2 new windows with you, and then they disappeared just as quick. Anyways, I lost my train of thought there. So if you just kind of want to go after whatever else.
Well, I'll continue it. Yeah, I'll continue the train of thought. So
okay, go for it.
We were talking basically about, obviously police brutality, which is the main topic of the podcast right now, and which is hitting the nation. And I like to deal with physical numbers and facts when we address the issue. So, I mean, let's just look at security guards in the industry. Security guards, they're protecting private property in the most cases. Now, they don't do exactly the same job that the police officer does, but very similar. They have to go into banks and stuff, remove people, vagrants, and people who are homeless. They're sleeping in these places, protect private property, put themselves in situations like the police. Same with firemen, same with paramedics, same with, doctors at the hospital who deal with mentally unstable people all the time. We just don't see the correlation of other fields killing the people the way that the police do. Now, why is this? It's because each of those job titles has different legal parameters, and they're placed in these different guises. Like I said, the police officers are in a monopoly of their own. They're the only ones who can do the service, and they also take their edicts from the politicians rather than the customers, the way a security guard does. So I would love to see policing eventually move into more of the private sector, and basically the same way you buy auto insurance or you buy house insurance, stuff like that, you buy policing insurance for your community and stuff, or basically like a security type guard type that'll check on your stuff or property. And people will say, well, what about who's going to enforce the drug war, or who's going to enforce writing you tickets for seatbelts and stuff? That's what I mean. We'll fix all that. We don't need all that. That's all the government bullshit that comes along with policing, have a monopoly of it. So a lot of the problems will stem from just having more competition in the market.
Yeah, exactly. I was just checking. I seen someone had done a sticker where, let me just make sure I get through that. Super sticker, good times. Thank you for the super sticker, good times. Appreciate that. Oh yeah, good times as a member too. Appreciate you being a member as well. Okay, so anyway, so let's get back to this topic here, because I want to get to. So this, I'm going to bring up an article that was brought out from CBC. Just one sec there, Matt. So this was the CBC article that came out just the other day in regards to this whole thing. So thousands rally in Toronto against anti-Black, anti-Indigenous racism. Now, like I say, when they put these headlines on, and I mean, the people at the CBC, they love stirring up this division. But what I would say is it's
No, I think
more
I lost. Yeah.
What?
Not sure if we're still lost talk.
Oh, are we still here? Still there? Hello? Uh-oh. What happened? What happened? Uh-oh. What happened there? What's going on here? What happened here? Oh, let me see. There he is. There he is. He's back. What happened?
I don't know. Keep getting cut. Who knows?
Jeez.
Hopefully we can chalk it up to just poor internet connection, and hopefully not more nefarious methods. So
yeah, I would say hopefully just poor internet connection. That's probably the case. Anyway, so thousands rally in Toronto against anti-Black, anti-Indigenous racism. Protest comes on the heels of high-profile police-involved deaths in both Canada and the U.S. So this is the media once again taking advantage, and this is this kind of stuff that really irks me, really grinds my gears, folks, is when the media tries to play up these stories as a means to divide the populace. And I mean, I see it so often, even now with the Trump putting out that tweet today, and I see and people that I usually have a lot in common with when in terms of standing up for rights, freedom, and liberty. But now, whether it's the people on the left or the right, now this, of course, CBC is very left-leaning, but they're going to try to play this into a racial divide, right? Or obviously anti-Indigenous, anti-Black, but what about white people? Like I say, this stuff happens to white people as well. So it really should be against police brutality towards anybody, right? But because the CBC wants to play politics with it, they're going to run with a narrative that basically tries to make it out so that it's white cops treating people that are either Black, brown, or Indigenous, First Nation people, terrible. But to me, that's, if you want to get the population behind you, stop playing identity politics. And that's what I do as a libertarian. Now, I get it. I piss right-wingers off and left-wingers on a continuing ongoing basis. But the reason why I do so, and I'll continue to do so, is because, yes, morals and ethics, like Matt was alluding to earlier, we have to deal with these things in a universal manner and stop picking winners or losers, or stop playing this tribalism game, because at the end of the day, we're all going to suffer, right? So right now, like I say, once Trump tweeted out that Antifa is going to be put on like a terrorist list, right? So they'll be labeled as a terrorist group. Now I get 100%. I totally understand why people would be applauding that, because there are some particular people within the Antifa organization that have definitely committed violent crimes. No doubt about it. We've seen it. The video footage is out there, and like, it's undeniable. Andy Ngo, that poor guy down in California that, got beat pretty good by a bunch of these Antifa groups. He can tell you with firsthand knowledge, yes, some of these people are very violent thugs. But here's the problem with collectivism or collective guilt, or trying to target or label any people or group with this broad brush of now saying they're terrorists. That means everyone within or has ever joined or supported or aligned with Antifa is now going to be targeted in a pretty strict manner, because now you're talking about big government, right? And my thing is, as a libertarian, as much as I realize that, yes, Antifa people, some of them would love to see me arrested or punished or penalized or put on some kind of a terrorist list. They would, but to me, I have to hold, like, that's what I mean. I have to try to hold myself to a higher standard. If I want to live in a world that's better than what, like, that kind of a thug would want to live in, I have to hold myself to a standard and hopefully try to entice many of my other fellow Canadians to do the same thing. So I'm actually a little bit let down today by the sheer fact. Yeah, I really am, because I'm not happy with labeling, because to be honest with you, I've thought this for quite some time. And I know people that's watching the stream right now that are considered right-wingers, it's probably not going to please them. But you know what? And I've said this in a couple past streams, which is probably why, like I say, a lot of the right-wingers that used to watch me no longer watch me. But tell you the truth, if it came down to, if I had to pick one of the lessers of evils, like if there was a true breakdown in society and the economy completely, I probably trust just as many people who identify as an Antifa or an anarcho-communist as I would people that, you know, are just white nationalist Canadians, right? Because that's the thing. I realize that collectivism comes from both sides. And to me, the one thing I do recognize, at the very least, from some who identify as Antifa, is at the very least the ones that are saying they're against the state. Now, the ones that just want to punch Nazis, because in reality they're authoritarian collectivists themselves, but they just want to use the banner of Antifa, right, to counter their political opponents, or basically their ideologues, their mirror ideologues on the right side of the spectrum. That, like I said, I wouldn't agree with any, but I do believe that some of those people that like to identify as anarcho-communists, right, and I'm sure they probably align or agree with a lot of people that are in the Antifa groups too. But if they're anti-state, we're already halfway there. At least we both recognize that we shouldn't have any rulers, right? I'm all for it. And a lot of these people would identify as anarchists, right? So I'm already halfway there with them, that yes, we don't want to have rulers. The difference is they might want to impose their will in a manner that's not conducive with me. I would tell them, listen, if you want to have a communism set up, well, you do it, but you don't get to force me into your little collective. That's what I do. Whereas the right wingers, and not like the left wing, like the Antifa, they will definitely look like try to use violence, right? We've seen it. But it's right now, the crazy part, and this is the part that I find most disturbing, is Antifa are actually the ones out there doing the physical violence themselves. And to be honest with you, I've seen them. Not real worried about them, right? But the right wingers, some of the white nationalists who are now standing up to defend the police right now, are the ones, like I say, are willing to defend the status, the enforcers. And these are the very same right wingers that say, oh, that Trudeau, he needs to be charged with treason. Trudeau's a criminal. But you support the very cops that are not charging Trudeau, right? A lot of them cops among the ranks in Canada, from coast to coast to coast, would identify as right wing or conservative. Are they doing, any of them doing anything, to actually, criminally charge anyone in the political realm for some of the crimes they're committed? I mean, come on. The political class in this country are committing crimes every day. I mean, if the cops are so worried about, petty thieves, well, you got the biggest thieves on the planet that are now running this country. Are they out arresting any of them? No. And the right wingers, like I say, love defending the cops. But meanwhile, it's the very cops that would be defending Trudeau from any being held accountable for anything he's done. So this is the problem where, like I say, right wingers need to get the fuck on board with being a little bit more consistent with their bullshit. And I'm even seeing some right wingers themselves are starting to wake up and realize this truth is, if you want to remain compliant and complacent and keep pretend that this boot licking strategy is going to work out well for you, well, wait till you see the kind of people that you end up surrounding yourself with. It won't be with people like me who would like to leave you in peace, and maybe give you some good moral or ethical teachings or underpinnings in terms of your thought processes. No, the people you're going to align yourself with is that they'll be friends with you now as long as you agree with them. But the minute you disagree with them, you'll see how quick they'll turn on you. And like I say, I just don't trust them. And so today I want to reduce this kind of divisiveness in terms of race and in terms of the left or right. Now, left and right don't like that because they like playing this kind of politics, this game. It's like a zero-sum game. Oh, what the right wing, they're going to defeat Antifa, and then what? And then what? As far as the libertarian goes, if the right wing comes to rise to power, I'm still just as fucked. Matter of fact, like I say, probably even worse, because they seem to want to run to the state the most, right? The enforcers, the military and the police, whereas Antifa, if society broke down, so far, from what I understand, Antifa, other than, like I say, the petty thugs themselves going out, they're using their own little fists. What are they using? Social media to propagate their message, right? Not going to harm me nearly as bad, right? As now, if they were looking to use the state, but obviously Donald Trump is they're not a fan of Donald Trump, so they're not actively looking to use the state right now. So, like I say, there's right wingers that I'm even more concerned now than some of these left wingers. But like I say, the biggest thing is to me is take race and all these left right divides out of it, and just think about it. What kind of a world do you truly want to live in? What kind of a country? What kind of a province? What kind of a locality? What kind of jurisdiction do you want to live in? Do you want to live in one where it's just, picking one side over the other, or do you want to live in a place where people, whether they identify as left or right or anywhere in between, hold themselves to a universal set of ethics and morals? I want the latter myself, and I'm pretty sure Matt does too. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, well, I'll take this off. Well, actually, will you pull me up the definition of terrorism while I'm talking?
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
First off, to cover a couple points there that you made. So obviously, the racial divide right now, the media and stuff like that. And my message right now to the Black Lives Matter and like that, and the Black community as general who are upset about police violence, why would you choose a strategy to ostracize white people and make it a racial issue? If the white people have issue with police, and if Asian people have issues with police, and everyone has, and the races have issues with police, I want as many people on my team to go against the enemy as possible. So why would I be like, screw Whitey, he don't get impressed by the police, this is all about black people, and then you just annihilated a couple soldiers that might have been on your team to help fight against the big bad beast? It's a stupid, poor strategy. So that's my take on what he just said about the article, and CBC and all the news media's making it about race, because we know the higher ups, they want to make it about race because they want to divide the soldiers. They don't want a unified army because then it's more dangerous. Now, as for Trump right now labeling Antifa as domestic terrorists, and yeah, I'm seeing people in the right now who are rallying behind this and cheering, yeah, this is great. You guys are a bunch of idiots. First question I would pose to you is, what do you think if Obama or someone like Obama gets back into office? Then you think you're not going to be labeled as domestic terrorist in that time? So you're just setting yourself up for powers that's going to be used against you. And also, we're getting back into words and how to be effective with communication. So if I was a reporter at the White House and I was asking Trump a question when a lot of them are asking about, hey, you're going to make Antifa a domestic terrorist, I would say to Trump, well, Trump, what is your definition of terrorism here? Let's get down to the nitty gritty here, because the black community and people in general can make an argument then that police are domestic terrorists, right? Because I guarantee the police force have killed more people and oppressed more people in the communities than a couple Antifa people who beat the hell out of people, which I'm not condoning. But when you look at the numbers of deaths, government and police forces to Antifa, one of them is the bigger domestic terrorism force. So I would be like, Trump, if you want to start labeling people by definitions, you better look in the mirror. Now, my father, I can't really see it, but can you just read me the definition of terrorism there, and then I'll speak on it?
Yeah, so it says the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. To me, that's like, you could, why don't you just call it government?
That's government. Exactly. Taxes. The whole concept of government. Hey, we need to fund this institution. It's through the threat of force and violence, or it wouldn't be able to exist the way it does today for what political means, because government is a political institution. So please get the words right, get the communication right. When I see these people in the right movement, yeah, I think I don't want to throw some names, but I can think of a couple right now who are tweeting about it, who are all excited. You guys are idiots. You're missing the whole philosophy, and you're setting yourself up for failure. And we'll get into it later, but I started out supporting Trump in many ways, and then there was some conspiracy guys saying like, maybe Trump's actually working for them all, and it's all just 4D chess. And you know what? I'm starting to come back to that way, because now you're seeing the right calling for the military to come out in the street. Now you're seeing the right to start censoring the same way the left is, and they're getting behind Trump, and it's like, whoa, Trump does a lot of good. But how many people are actually arrested right now? How many people are indicted? Even Trump says, Obama spied on me. He's a treasonous person. Okay, you say it then. Make it happen. Why you hire A.G. Barr, who's fucking friends with Jeffrey Epstein and shit? Like, it doesn't make sense. You're going to make the lead sheriff in town working with the swamp. Come on. So I don't know. Maybe it is all 4D chess. I don't know anymore.
Well, actually, when it comes to that, I believe what that is just always about Because rather than that, especially when you get into, and I don't even like to use the term conspiracy theory too awfully much, because I think there are theories that have been proven to be quite conspiratorial and real in nature. But like I say, most of the times, rather than trying to figure out if there is an overarching, like an actual people that are actually conspiring, I think a lot of times it comes down to just incentive at the end of the day. And it's basically about their own self-interest. So no president has ever done anything against the president prior to them, right? And if you think about it, pretty good reason why they do so, because chances are every president has done something at some point in time in their careers or in their lives where they could probably be held to account legally or criminally for something, right? Whereas if they don't ever charge criminally the past president, well, it's the same thing like with that thin blue line. It's like, well, I don't want whoever comes after me to be able to charge me like it's supposed to. I assume, I could be correct, I'm just assuming here, it's not like I have any proof of this, but I would assume that the reason why this precedent seems to take place continuously over and over, where nobody charges the people in the past with any past transgressions or illegal activities, is because they don't want it to happen to them. And there has been no precedent so far in the history of the United States where that has happened. So I suppose even for Trump, he's like, I'm pretty sure they're going to try to fuck me, but as long as I don't do anything to them, maybe then I'll get the same, get out of jail.
100%. I mean, to add to that, you literally got Mitch McConnell saying when he gets questioned, hey, Trump says that you should bring Obama in to be questioned in the Senate. And Mitch McConnell blatantly says to the reporter, whoa, Trump, you don't want to open that can of worms. You don't want to start bringing presidents in front of Congress. And they're basically telling you, you don't want to start opening that can of worms. We want to all get out of jail free card. Fuck off. Shut it down. Like, it's just so it's thrown in your face.
What it comes down to at the end of the day, folks, is government's it's a big gang and you're not part of it. But the ones who are, it's in their self-interest, in their best interest to not, bite the hand that feeds them. And even if it's someone on the political divide, I mean, think about how many times have you seen where these people, they'll get on stage and they'll be, especially even a debate. Oh, they put on a good show, right? But then after that, they might be gone out to the local pub having a beer. And chances are, if you were a fly in the wall, I'd be like, we really suckered those. They thought we were really pissed. In reality, like I say, they're all part of the same criminal organization. Whether in Canada you want to call them the Libcons or the, what do they call them down in the U.S., the Republicrats or whatever the hell. But it's basically two wings of the same bird, right? They take their turns, and sure they have different ways in how they want to rule over the masses. They're all individuals at the end of the day, and their own collective ideologies are somewhat, not exactly the same, but they still want to be your rulers. They still want to be able to escape, the things that we all have to be held to as private citizens. They want to be able to escape the culpability or the restrictions or the restraints that makes it so that we can't go out and do the kind of things they do. So like I say, you just got to think about the kind of person that wants to go into politics in the first place. And especially now in the kind of world that we live in today, it is really that race to the lowest common denominator in terms of evil. It's who can be the most evil. And Trump, I mean, come on, he's obviously got that potential within him, but he can also has the potential. That's the beautiful thing about having enemies that are on both sides of the spectrum. Like the one thing that a lot of people that would consider themselves even libertarians, anarchists, or right wingers, or whatever, in terms of Trump is, yes, he's done a lot of good to push back against some of the leftist authoritarianism, but has he really done a tremendous amount for actually bringing true liberty to the forefront? I don't think a whole lot. I think the entrenched system, I think the fact that the United States founding fathers were smart enough when they drafted the Constitution to so enshrine not just the First Amendment, but the Second Amendment, and add those few little words, do not infringe or shall not be infringed. That has done more to protect the American citizens' rights because of their belief in the Constitution, right? Their belief in their inherent and inalienable rights, rather than any politician. I don't think Trump's doing a whole lot in terms of getting people up to speed, other than he's been a disruptor. But just like social media platforms have proven to be a disruptor to some of the old established powers as well. But that new power can also be used for nefarious reasons, as we're learning. So, like I say, I don't hold out a whole lot of faith in anyone in the political class. I just at least recognize that in terms of the left divide, well, while they're fighting amongst each other, then maybe the citizens will be left alone for a minute or two. But that's not really what's taking place. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of Trump and how he's doing and playing out this situation right now. And I get what he's doing. I get it. It's November's coming. He's trying to feed the base. He's trying to throw out some meat to the base, no doubt, to solidify their support. But at the same time, I think he's going to realize that this is going to be, it's going to prove to be a bit of a backfire to label this group, an entire group, as terrorists, because that means now, and the media, I saw Stefan Molyneux, he posed a pretty good question today on Twitter. Yeah, what is going to happen now with all these people, these journalists and the people in the media? And like I say, sure, it'd be good to watch them go down in flames for a while, but like I say, that can obviously come back and bite you in the ass. But now there's going to be a whole lot of people who've actually not committed any crime, maybe people that you and I are not fans of, but now they're going to be labeled as supporters of terrorists, right? So like I say, I don't know. To me, it's all it is it's which side of the politics now is figuring out how they can cause most harm to the other side. And like I say, at the end of the day, the death by 1,000 cuts means we're all going to bleed out. So I don't know how that's going to benefit us. But anyways, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, well, if I just had to analyze Trump, now this is just my opinion. This is just me talking shit, so don't take it for fact. This is just me playing games in my head. But, the funny thing about Trump is, if they would have, from the start at the deep state, because they're so power hungry, they had to spy on him. They had to figure out, you had to get some dirt. They wanted to get their guy back in so bad. And they attacked Trump so bad in the media. And I'm going to list off some things right now. Because they attacked him so hard, because Trump's got that kind of ego mentality that, if you attack him, he's going to attack back. I think if the deep state originally just shut the hell up, let him do his 4 years, kind of went back, because Trump wasn't, like you said, no libertarian, so government was still going to be around in 4 years. They would have probably just slipped another Joe Biden or someone in after Trump. But because they come at him so hard, because they're such power-hungry bastards, and they started poking him, and Trump is kind of an ego guy, he started coming back at them. So they actually shot themselves in the foot. Now, if I was in front of Trump and I had to make a plea to him, and I would kind of appeal to that ego side that we all know Trump has, I would say to him, I wouldn't go on the anarchist and I wouldn't try to convince him that government's terrorism. You're not going to get there with the guy. But what I would do is I would say, Trump, first it was grab her by the pussy, the hot mic. They tried to make you out to be a sexual assaultist. Then it was you're working for Russia. They literally said you're a traitor to your own nation. Then they spied on you with Obama. We all know that now. Then they tried to say that you're a racist, that you hated black people. They have also said that you tried to go to war with North Korea when that was all going off, that you're a maniac ready to push the nukes. They also have went on many times saying Trump is mentally unfit to be in office. They have labeled Trump a pedophile who is friends with Jeffrey Epstein. They have called Trump to his face idiots. They've asked him stupid reporting questions. They've went after his family. So I would say to Trump, if I was sitting across from his office right now in the Oval Office, I would say, how much do they got to fuck with you? How much do they got to do before you realize, unless you lock them up, they're not going to stop? And that's what we got to get to these people. He has to indict them. He has to go after Hillary Clinton's and all these deep statists, because if you don't, they're not going to stop. They go on the offensive like crazy. I just listed 10, 20 things that we all know were lies that they literally come after him. Can you imagine if that was done to you as an individual? Labeled you a pedophile, a rapist, come after your family. I mean, God damn, you're not going to want to go on the offensive against these people. So if he doesn't go on the offensive, and if his presidency, I don't see any indictments or arrests of all these people, then the hell with Trump. The Trump was a piece of shit just like all of them, and he didn't do anything, and he enabled it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm definitely, as far as especially the whole thing with Trump or any politician, the big thing though to me is we're not going to rely on the politicians, no matter who the hell they are. They're not going to get us out from under this, folks. Like, and I've been saying this for a while, and Matt understands this, is really at the end of the day, we have a whole lot of people, generations of people who have been raised and indoctrinated into a new faith called statism. It started out through the education system. And as each generation got further and further away from the religiosity of Christianity that was a dominant force in Western cultures in the past, they've pivoted to some new moral authority, and it is the state. So no matter what we do as people, like it's a long-term project, but at the very least, like to me, what I've understood as an adult male, that, like I say, even in my 40s, because I had the capacity to learn these things. So, people say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, yeah, actually you can. If you're willing to listen to information, if you're willing to give a critical thought to things that are presented to you, then yeah, you can even teach some old dog a new trick, and I'm a perfect example of that. So what I want to do is, rather than look to the politicians or the political class or which political party can we clamor for to save us from ourselves, because in reality, we're talking about not me as myself, but we're talking about the citizenry. The citizenry have been tricked to believe that the only way they'll get through life is pivoting towards the state as a means to be the ultimate means to their end, whether it's financially or to protect them or to get some safety or security or some false pretense thereof. Whereas if they just understood, no, you need to put your faith in the fact that your fellow man, if you treat your fellow man with decency, with respect, and you don't use preemptive force, you don't steal from them, yes, there's still going to be potential for bad things to happen to you, but you greatly reduce it to the point where it's so minimal in nature. It's that point, it's that rounding error that you end up with. Whereas now with the state and the rise of the state and people playing this division where it's, oh, this side, the left or the right really fucked us over this time. So when we gain political power, we'll get back at them with like I said, all we're doing is escalating of intentions of violence and threats thereof. And all we end up at the end of the day is what we're seeing today, where both sides of the political divide are unwilling to think critically. It's just like you're at not just a pissing match, but an actual boxing match. And all they're thinking about is they've got the fight in their eyes. And they're no longer willing to sit back and think critically about the issues. To me, like I said, we got to get people start thinking more critically about what it even means to be a free human being. If you want to have your freedom, then you cannot allow a government or their mindless enforcers. Because what we're talking about today, even people that are against the ruling class, it's the enforcers, right? Justin Trudeau is not a fucking strong dude. I mean, look at him. Have you ever seen the guy with his shirt off when he was doing the boxing thing? He looks like an adolescent child, even in his 40s. To me, it's a bit weird even seeing a guy that's basically the same age I am that has a body that still looks like a child. But whatever. I mean, forget about that stuff. I mean, this guy is not like, no Canadians are fearful of this guy. The reason why people are fearful of telling Trudeau, I'm not fucking doing your shit. And no, I'm not paying your carbon tax. And no, you're not controlling every aspect of my life. And no, you're not economically enslaving my kid or grandkid. The reason why no one is railing against Trudeau right now properly or really standing on the steps of the Parliament building is because they're scared of the enforcers. It's the enforcers are at the end of the day. It's these police officers that the right wingers, and that's like I say, that's the part where the right wingers, I don't know how they fucking circle that kind of insanity. But if you want to get rid of Trudeau and this kind of authoritarianism, or you not a big fan of collectivism or socialism or communism, well, you cannot have a bunch of enforcers who, like I say, because they don't care who the hell, they're going to follow whoever their political master is because they get their check from the state by way of force, right? By way of taxation. If you could withdraw it, like we were saying before, if we could get the point where people no longer, even if you could get even just your local mayors, right? Who was it that I actually seen? They were actually talking about in their jurisdiction getting rid of the RCMP and setting up a local police force. Was that somewhere at Western Alberta, maybe? Yeah, I think it might have been one of the Western provinces where somebody was mentioning that they were thinking about kicking the RCMP out of their jurisdiction. Well, that would be at least, a better option than having this bureaucratic, basically authoritarian force that's basically they have no accountability to most people because they are a federalized force. They are under the federal system in terms of, and they're not local. So how do you hold these people to account? You can't. But what you need to do is you got to get people to stop believing in giving these people so much power. And if you need to create some kind of competitive venues, so if you're a person that lives in your community and you realize that the police aren't going to be there to protect people in your community, you should be willing to step up and do it yourself. If you're willing to do it yourself, then don't rely on the police to do it. And then, like I say, if you lead by example, then you get more and more people. Now, I'm not talking about vigilantism. I'm talking about defending yourself or your neighbor. But the problem is today, everyone's basically, because the state has been like where everyone has been offloading their personal responsibility, nobody wants to do anything today. It's all the state will take care of it. Well, as long as you keep relying on the state to do everything, well, look at the kind of people look at the people who go into the state and look at what you're relying on to be the arbiters of truth or to try to keep peace among the nation. How well is that working out for you? It's not working out for most people. And I know it hasn't worked out for me in my life. And I have had past encounters with the police and I've seen how heavy-handed they can be. And so has my son. And I'm sure some of you in this stream has as well. And once you've felt that heavy hand, I get it's hard to explain that to people that haven't. And when I hear people say, oh no, the cops are great. Well, have you ever challenged them in any way? No. Do you always do what they tell you? Well, yeah. Well, then what the hell? Right? I don't want to live my life. And most people I don't want to live my life racing down to be the most compliant, conformist person on the planet. Because if that's what you're telling me, that's what I have to be or who I have to be to get by in life, then I'm not a free human being. And I don't want to live in that kind of life. I don't want to live in that kind of a mindset. I don't know how some people do it, to be honest with you. But anyways, go ahead, Matt. Sorry, I get on a little bit of a ramble there, but.
No, that's fine. Have you talked at all about on your podcast the potentiality of agent provocateurs through these things?
Yeah, actually, now that you brought that up, actually, I did want to bring this up because for people that think that we're just talking about, and it's not even just like I say, in case you haven't noticed, we haven't really touched down too much on the George Floyd case. And I recognize that, yeah, that cop definitely, I mean, and I hear people try and defend it. It makes me sick. But it's not just the one incident. And it's not just because it was against a black person. No, it happens all the time. And one real classic example of that, and what Matt was bringing up, I'm going to share a screen right here, was, and if you watch this video, and he's produced a few subsequent videos as well. Let me see, make sure it's there. Yeah, so this is the one that Dan Dix made quite a few years ago called Into the Fire, the full film. It's 2 hours and 3 minutes long, basically where he's covering the G20 protest back, I believe it was, what was it, 2010, I believe, or so? Yeah, I believe it was 2010. Right? Yeah. The G20 summit, yeah, 2010, 2011. But if you check that out, you'll see many examples where this kind of police brutality took place. Like I say, just because you don't see it every day, the reason why that is because most of the time the media isn't looking to actively put that kind of stuff on display unless they can use it for political reasons. G20, it was hard to ignore it because everybody was out at the time. And this is when smartphones were coming around and everybody had cameras and people were testing them out. There was so much evidence. It was really hard to kind of brush that under the carpet. But in addition to that, just one more sec there, Matt. So in addition to check that out, and yeah, the link to this one will be in the description of the video as well. But there's also this one. So I'll share this one too. So that was Dan Dix, Press for Truth. But I can give you another example. Sorry, let me do this again here. Another example with another film. This one was out of on the TVO, that public station in Toronto or Ontario there, called The Arrest, a TVO original documentary. This was produced actually this year, May 26, 2020. But it definitely deals with, a bunch of instances in terms of police brutality or police corruption as well. So check that out as well. So like I said, it's not just the example of the black gentleman in the U.S. that had the cop kneeling on his neck and basically killed him, or even the other one that happened in Toronto with the lady in the balcony or whatever. It's not just these two examples, right? If that was it, it'd be like, it could be. We don't even know, right? We don't know exactly 100% how all this is all going to turn out in terms of the charges of being laid in the Canadian one. Down in the U.S., we do see for sure that the charge of being laid. But like I say, it's not a matter of, we shouldn't be just waiting for these incidents to happen to really talk about this stuff. I like to talk about these things because I realize how important it is. And to me, it's the enforcers. It is the police. These are the people that we need to make sure they understand the importance of being those who are supposed to be peace officers rather than law enforcement, because they're not taking their oath towards the people seriously. Their oath seems to be going towards the political class. It's like they're swearing allegiance to who's signed their check, and they believe that the political class is the one who signs their check. And in reality, they're not actually wrong at this point in time, because it's not like Canadians can withdraw our support, right? You can't. Through taxation, you can say, I don't want to support the police, but yeah, well, they'll just print the money to do it anyways. So they're wise enough that they realize who feeds them, so they're not going to bite the hand. But if you get a large, substantial portion of the population and people from both sides of the political divide showing some solidarity, like I say, I would love to see some right wingers that are all up in arms about Trudeau coming after their guns. Some of the gun culture people in this country, and maybe some of those social conservatives, and maybe a couple people from like the Antifa group, or some left-leaning activists, or people from Black Lives Matter. If we could stop playing the political game, right, and focusing the attention on each other, which just keeps us divided, and once again, constantly fighting each other. If we could all find a way to come together and recognize who the true culprits are, right, and put our differences aside at least for long enough to show that, yeah, we can be a force, because we can, and it doesn't require any violence. All it requires is a substantial portion of the population said, no, we're not going to put up with them no more, and you're not going to divide us, because really, that's the ruling class and the media class. They know the most important thing that they can do is keep us divided and fighting amongst each other. Because as long as we're doing that, we're not bothering them, and they're getting to do whatever they want to do unfettered. That's the thing that disturbs me the most, I think, about this whole situation is people that you're prolonging, you're protracting the days where we'll ever get to the point where we'll bring back any semblance of freedom and liberty in this country, because you're playing this fucking game. I've watched it go on for 10 years where the left and the right are fighting amongst each other and trying to outdo each other. This battle royale, but at the end of the day, they're both suffering. I see the right wingers and the left wingers. They're suffering severely. Some of them so detrimental that many of them are taking their lives. Well, stop fighting each other, right? Pivot towards the people who are the true monopolies of force, the people who are truly trying to use violence and coercion and theft and intimidation against you. Focus your attention on them and worry about your petty differences that you have with your neighbor or someone of a different skin color or of someone of a different preference in terms of the economic system or whatever. Deal with that after the fact. We have to come together as a real show of force as people, right? Not as a left or right. Stop playing the divide. Let's come together as people, as Canadians or as Americans. And like I say, you'd see how amazing that would work. It would be the most beautiful thing. And like I say, we haven't seen anything even remotely resembling this. Even if you go all the way back to the 60s civil rights movement, we haven't seen this stuff in at least half of a century, folks, where people will generally put down, their animosity towards each other, put away their political division and all that rhetoric that's been ramped up, right? Put all that shit aside and really come together. I want to see that. And I'm hoping that this stream that we're doing today will hopefully entice some Canadians to want to get on board with that too and stop playing the left-right divide.
Is it Operation Mockingbird the one where the CIA was influencing the media and manipulating and working hand in hand with the media in the 60s? You go ahead and Google that one and just double check for me so I make sure I get my facts straight. And while he's searching that, I'm just going to elaborate on it. So anytime, we all on Facebook and social medias have those people, those family members that aren't really politically active, but every once in a while they'll change their banner to whatever the support thingy is, or they'll be outraged right now because the media is outraged. So I look at the media and the public anytime there's these big acts of outrage, as the media is just a big spotlight. And anywhere they focus their attention, you're going to get mob outrage. And, that's what I find both the leftists and then the Mike Cernoviches, the Stefan Molyneux, well, not so Molyneux because he did it earlier on, but he's on more of that bandwagon now. We all focus in on wherever that spotlight is. The riots right now, whether it's the race relations, Russiagate, Trump, even Molyneux doing a lot of Trump videos. But, we're falling right into, and did you find the Operation Mockingbird? Was that what it is?
Yeah, you want me to read it for you?
Yeah, pull it up for me.
Operation Mockingbird is an alleged large-scale program of the United States Central Intelligence Agency that began in the early years of the Cold War and attempted to manipulate news media for propaganda purposes. It funded student and cultural organizations and magazines as front organizations.
Okay, so you not think this is not what's going on right now with George Soros and all these deep state funders? You think they're not stirring up these race riots? And that's going to lead me to the agent provocateur thing. So if you're the powers that be and you have a bunch of people outside the police station peacefully protesting and media attention is coming in there and all these CNNs and everyone's focusing and everyone remains peaceful, then the message gets through and the more people are going to get outraged because, it's just peaceful people demanding for police not to be brutal pricks. But the powers that be can't have that because that message is too powerful. That picture on camera is too powerful. So what do? And it doesn't take many people to get this across. All you would need is maybe 50 core police officers working an operation undercover, dressed as black bloc, to scatter out through the city. Like I said, only 50 people in a riot of maybe 1 million people or 500,000. All you need is a small group to start. Maybe break that first window, throw that first Molotov. And, it's a sad thing, but a lot of people are followers and not leaders in this world. And there's a lot of people out there, unfortunately, are opportunists. So I see when I'm looking at the rioting and the looting, maybe 90% of those people wouldn't have rioted and looted if the first person didn't break the window out and ran in. And it's like, well, I want a free TV too, since he's going to get one. And the chaos breaks down. So I'm thinking that anytime I see this outrage, it's synthetic, it's manipulated in some way. Now, are there actual people that aren't aren't political and that are running into Target and stealing TVs? Absolutely. But what I'm saying is they're just probably opportunists that were triggered earlier by the agent provocateurs. And this doesn't happen in just the United States. It happens in Gaza on the Strip. It happens in Israel. It's a common tactic that governments and police forces use across the nation because it's effective. Because now what are we talking about? Send in the military. Those people are looting and burning. Screw them. Screw them. It's creating race divide.
Oh, you cutting out a little bit there, Matt. Hello? You're freezing there just a little bit, Matt. Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Anyways, since Matt's kind of paused, I don't know if you can still hear me or not, but if you can hear me, the agent provocateurs, if you watch that video Into the Fire by Dan Dix, Press for Truth, I believe he is suspected now, alleged, there were agent provocateurs during the G20 summit as well. Anyways, let's see if we can get Matt back here. No, he's frozen right solid there. Let me see if I open up the YouTube and see what's happening on that end of things. Does it look like my end is screwed too? Because I can't tell if my end's bad or just Matt's. Okay, let's click on there and see where we're at. No, I can still see me moving. Matt's frozen though for some reason. No, I can still see me moving. Matt's frozen. Okay. Oh, Matt's gone. Okay, well, while I'm waiting for Matt to come back, he must have had a poor internet connection. Oh, there he is. Just one second here. All right. What's going on? Oh, you froze again real quick.
Into bunking those programs, they certainly down.
Oh, I lost you there again. You're cutting out bad again.
They certainly like to shut me down, but I
don't. Okay, I did mention about the provocateurs in that movie with Dan Dix, though, because it looked like allegedly there were some agent provocateurs that were there that
well,
day.
the ones that are clear and straight is when they literally will pull the mask off, and in certain situations the guy has his ID confirmed, and then you go and find out he's working for the local police department. I mean, come on, it's not like we're talking fake news here.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing I want to mention too, actually, before we get too far too, is the people that want to defend the police. Listen, all we need is some evidence about these good cops. Where the hell? Listen, as a libertarian, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to put the invitation for anyone that's watching the stream right now, any right winger out there. If you got cops, I'll bring them onto my channel. And if they want to rail against their fellow officers that are corrupt and following the orders of their political masters, or doing these things that are infringing on the rights of Canadians. And we've seen how many things have been taking place under the COVID lockdown, right? Where they're punishing, a young teenager guy for trying to do chin-ups in a park by himself, or a guy trying to walk his dog, or a guy out with his young children, right? Like as if this fucking order follower is more concerned with that guy's kids than the guy is. Like, how fucked in the head do you have to be to believe that this guy that's never met this other person before in his life, or he's giving them a ticket because he's trying to protect his kids from his fucking father that's taking his kids out so he can get some fresh air. And now we're hearing, even after this fact anyways, that actually being outside is better than being cooped up in a closed off environment. So like I say, what it is, these enforcers are just following orders, right? And how many times you heard it? Just following orders. Even my friend from across the pond in Scotland, Anthony Samarov, and if you've seen the guy, real nice guy, probably the most peaceful person you'll ever meet. But even he says when he sees the police, gets a little shivering and will cross the street. Why? Because we've all experienced just how authoritarian these fuckers are. And when you look in their eyes and you try to talk to them as a human being, and all you see back is this empty stare, and all they've got is whatever they've been programmed. That's a dangerous fucking person. And you goddamn well know that when you look into someone's eyes and you can try to talk reasonable to them, sensible, and there's nothing there. So they're sociopathic. And like I say, maybe they're victims because of the fact that they put themselves in this fucking job that they're like, to do that kind of job, I would imagine is really, really hard in the head, which is why think about the kind of people that want to do that, right? They end up, I guess they've become so hardened off from their
Robotic.
emotions, right? Because they have to deal with the shit. So, like I say, it's the fault of the state, but it's also the fault of these enforcers. And like I say, if are these good cops out there that the Canadians are talking about, or the people that are defending the police right now, ask them to come on my show. Ask them to reach out to me. I will bring them on, and I'll give them all the time they need, the ample opportunity for them to join forces with us. And I'll say, look, okay, here, there are good cops. And I'll say, I'm not going to say all cops are bad anymore, because look, here's someone that's proven with an example that where they're going to stand and say, no, my paycheck is not more important than doing the right thing. But until I see that, you're damn right I'm going to sit here all day, every day, and say, no, there's no such thing as a good cop in this country until I've seen it with my own fucking eyes or heard it with my own ears. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, here's a scary thing to that. So like you said, what you're getting through is it takes a certain person to be that cop that is going to go down there and follow the order. It takes a certain person to be the Nazi general taking the Jews to the concentration camp. It takes a certain human. That's right. There's conflict. There's morality. You know, maybe that person starts to question what they're doing. So this is why it's very goddamn important that we get this government and all this philosophy stuff figured out now, because we're literally 10, 20 years out from robotic police officers. And you know what? A robot doesn't have that moral conflict. They're going to follow whatever the order is. So if we have martial law in effect and then they roll out the robot soldier police officers, it's good. You think the police are brutal on the people now when they have somewhat maybe human heartstrings you could tug on? You wait till the robots come in and police the world. And they've been getting us ready for that with all the movies and DARPA and all that kind of stuff. But now I also wanted to go into one other thing. I just wrote it down here. Hang on.
Okay. Well, let me just say one thing while you're finding that, Matt, because in addition to the police, because I also recognize, and I've lost a lot of them, and I don't know why, because trust me, I have nothing but the best of intention, folks. And if you might want to let them know, but when I rail against the police and in addition to the military, because like I say, even when I was helping to support the PPC during that run, I interviewed a lot of PPC supporters, members, and even a couple candidates that were military members. And the problem I keep having time and time again is, and I get it, some of them say some of the good things, and it sounds like you care about freedom. The problem is, though, is if I have to pick and choose, because if I don't know you personally, and obviously we don't know each other personally, a lot of these people I communicate, you were a status. You already showed for at least a substantial portion of your life, whether you were in the military or the police for 10 years or 20 years, you've already showed me that you have a willingness to follow orders to either go kill, harm, injure, or penalize people that have never done anything to you, and you're willing to do it just because someone else told you to. So am I supposed to, who do you think should be more trustworthy here? Someone like myself who's never been part of the state, and I've never advocated for using the state for violence. Matter of fact, the only time I've ever voted in my life was provincially, other than PPC, to try to get, like I say, but prior to that, it was provincial, and it was so that I could get access to an ATV trail. That was the only reason why I ever voted in my life. It was never so that I could take something from anybody. And matter of fact, I didn't even think that was going to do any good. But I figured, hey, the local MLA, he had just happened to walk up my driveway. I brought that up, and that was it. But I definitely never looked to use the state for anything, and I know what the state is. So if you're a police officer or a military man, well, then own up to your ignorance. If you own up to your ignorance, then I might be able to get, say, okay, we can learn. This is a learning lesson from here on, but the state is the enemy ultimately, right? But you hear a lot of these people are military folks, and they say they're all against Trudeau and what he's doing, but then they still want to maintain that state, and they still want to maintain how the state functions, which is under forced wealth and income redistribution. I hear people even say, oh, well, I went and, whether they went to Afghanistan or did a tour, or some people who even back in the Kosovo day, did anyone in those countries ever do anything to you, or was there an invasion of some country that I wasn't aware of? No. So you were willing that when someone said, because you signed on the bottom line that government's going to give you a paycheck, to become one of their enforcers, you signed on that line and you actively agreed that whatever they tell you to do, you'll do. So like I say, how can I I want you right wingers to realize I'm trying to reach out to you. I really am. But you have to, I'll stretch my hand out so far, but you better fucking do the same thing in return at the very least, as much as I'm trying, because I just what it is, as someone who's seen how status function, I just don't trust you. I don't trust you as far as I throw you, and you have background and examples why I shouldn't. Whereas someone like myself, I don't advocate for the state. I don't advocate for using it for any of its ultimate means to an end. So at the very least, I want to show that I want to lead by example. If you want to do the same thing, then step up the plate, show solidarity with me, put our petty differences aside, stop trying to play this political game, and maybe we can finally get somewhere. Anyways, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just want to, because I don't know how long we're going to go here, but kind of move into where I wanted to end the podcast, kind of the last few topics, and we might go on about this for 30, 40 minutes or so. But,
yeah, go for it.
Yep. So as I was getting about the media spotlight and the selective outrage and stuff, wherever the media points that spotlight. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting about with the whole COVID thing. So I'm always focusing on the time spans and why now is always what I'm asking myself. So if you look at, you had the Russiagate failed, and then you see this virus come out, and the virus come out of China. That's confirmed. Now, whether it come out accidentally or strategically, we can debate that. But I tell you one thing, the virus really helped out with Hong Kong protests. It really helped out take all the media light off of what happened in China right now. So if it did, China does look very suspicious to me, because they're reaping major benefit from COVID right now. They could care less if their own people die. But also, our media over here in the West was like, oh my God, don't leave your house, social distancing. That's all it was before these riots and protests kicked off. It was all about just telling everyone, stay 6 feet apart. They're drawing circles in parks and all that. And then overnight, you got all these riots and protests going on, and the media is covering them, but you don't see CNN saying, get the hell home. Why are the crowds out here? They're going to spread COVID. Now what? This is my future prediction right now. All of this, what it's happening, the COVID, the riots, the Russia collusion, all of it is for influencing the 2020 election. That's the end goal. That's what these deep staters are trying to focus on. The mail-in ballots, all of that. And as to the mail-in ballots, I'll just take a second on that. You got all the lefties, including the Young Turks, right? They're saying Trump's trying to influence the election for not allowing people to have mail-in ballots. But in the same breath, the Young Turks will also say, Bernie Sanders got the election stolen from the DNC. So you think they're going to steal it from your own dude? You don't think they're going to steal it from their opponent? Come on. So in one breath, they're accepting of election meddling and frauds and stuff. But in the same breath, oh, Trump can't do it. But it's all about to influence the 2020 election. So what happened? COVID was starting the facts were coming in, the numbers were coming in, the WHO were saying, oh, don't go out, oh, do go out, oh, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. There's so much flip-flopping that nobody was believing it. People were starting to come out into the streets. You were seeing the protests in Michigan. You were seeing the protests in Canada. Bottom line, people were looking at the social distancing rules and saying it's all bullshit. And then at that exact moment that people are starting to disbelieve in COVID, boom, race riots overnight. And now CNN and all these other media organizations that were before freaking out about COVID, including the CBC, are not in the same breath saying, how dare these protesters? Now, what's going to happen is once it cools down, because if they did that right now, Black Lives Matter might look at the protesters and say, you racist, you don't care about Black lives. And they've been so PC their whole life that it'll backfire on them. Irony in it. Okay, but let's continue with their strategy. So they'll let it cool down. They'll let the race riots cool down. The officer will get charged, blah, 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 blah. And then when everything's cooled down, the media's going to turn that spotlight right over and say, oh, Lord, here comes the second wave of COVID, like we've been talking about, because all you went out there and you protested, and now we need martial law again in the fall or next summer, and it's going to be even worse. The second wave is going to be worse now because there are so many people out in the streets, and it's all strategic. It'll probably happen. I'm going to say it right here on May 31st. It'll probably happen, the second wave, right before the election. Watch it. Watch it happen that way.
Oh, Matt brought it up as though you heard it here, folks, and it sounds like a plausible theory as far as I'm concerned. But I just wanted to deal with something there real quick, Mac, before we get in this, because I think this was the one the guy that was in the stream the other day. But I said I couldn't answer his questions. I couldn't deal with it because, that's why I said I would do it in this stream, because I wasn't, my it was monetized, so I didn't. But anyways, so I'll do the first one that he put. The citizenry don't help either. So many anti-cop hate videos flooding social media. The Leos are people too, made sometime from the community you live in. But then there was this one that come after. He did not die from the knee on the neck. Okay, Gordon Stewart 3. I kind of get what you're trying to say here, but here's the problem. Here's the issue. And this is where, like, the optics of it, it's even for me. And like I say, I try to put myself in the mindset. And I mean, if you pay attention to my videos, I try to be, that external voice to even hold myself. So it's like, make sure I'm thinking about these things critically from many perspectives. So I get what you're saying. But when you say stuff like this, like I say, if you could show me with an example where these cops are, these good cops, like I say, that are out there, like we're all making videos, like you say, there's all these videos out on the internet. Can you share me of any videos of Canadian? I've seen one video where someone was sharing around the internet where there was an American cop, I believe he was a sheriff or something, that actually come out and railed against the COVID lockdowns. But I didn't see any cop examples in Canada. If you could show me that, or if you could show me an example of cops who are against it, the kind of authoritarianism that Trudeau is imposing on us, like I say, even economically, or all the corruption that's happened with the legalization of the marijuana file, like the cannabis. If you can show me anything where these police are actually doing what you're suggesting they do, but I'm pretty sure you won't be able to show me the example. And then when you bring up with this part with because I heard Molyneux kind of try to allude to this too, and that kind of shit, like you're not making no friends by suggest. Like I know, and I heard about the whole thing with the autopsy where he had some extenuating circumstances or physical characteristics, I guess, that might have made him where he, they contributed, I guess you could say, your death. But to suggest, just like when that Eric Garner guy, the guy that's trying to sell cigarettes down in New York City, remember that one, man? Eric, the tall, heavyset guy, and he got killed by the cop that put him in the choke hold, right? Or this. Like when you're saying that, I mean, we've all seen the fucking video. I don't like, and you can say, oh, you can say something happened prior to that, and maybe it did. And you can say there might be other contributing factors, but when a cop is kneeling on a guy's neck for minutes on end, and the guy's literally saying, there's no, I don't know what fucking excuse you could possibly come up with. There was 3 or 4 cops there. Why the hell wasn't he just put in the back of the cop car? If he wants to harm himself, put him in the handcuffs, put him in the back cop car. He can smash his fucking head around all on that equipment back there all day long if he wants, but at least he's the one going to be causing harm to himself. Why would you have to hold your knee on the man's neck? Like I say, were these cops so fearful of an unarmed man that they just had to do? I just don't know what. To me, it's what it is you're having a cognitive dissonance moment because you have been taught to believe a certain thing for so long in your life, and I've gone through it. We've all had to go through these growing and very uncomfortable moments where we have to think about things a little bit more critically. And hopefully at some point in time, you will do this, Gordon Stewart, because he did die because that cop put his knee on his neck.
That's just it.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, that's just it. Like I watched that video recently of Molyneux too, and I was actually very surprised that Molyneux took that stance. And I get where he's coming from. Like, okay, who cares if the guy kneeing on his neck and at that certain moment he had a heart attack? I'll give you 2 different analogies which wouldn't be acceptable in society. Let's say a cop raided a home and it was the wrong home and they threw a flashbang in first and the flashbang gave the old man a heart attack. Now, the cop didn't kill him, but the heart attack did from the start of it. But at the end of the day, the cop still killed him because he opened the door and threw the flashbang. At the end of the day, if they never stopped George that day and harassed him for something small as counterfeit money, which, I mean, don't get me off on the Federal Reserve, but the point is, if they wouldn't have stopped him, he would have still been living. Or another analogy, if an officer was sitting there watching someone have an asthmatic attack or a diabetic who says, give me my EpiPen, and the officer just goes, ha, 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 no, that would still be considered murder because he could have intervened and helped the guy, man. You got to help. You got to do the right thing. And as to, well, he was being violent. He was being resistant. I did 5 years in security work, and I've never killed anyone, and I've had people spit at me. I've had people threaten my life and stuff, Just be a man. Every officer should be required to have a blue belt in jiu-jitsu because once you're a man, you have a ball sack between your legs and you're in a little bitch coward. You're not scared. Everyone's going to shoot me. Oh my God, I might not get the upper hand. And you actually can carry yourself with strength and dignity. Then you're not too worried about getting into a scuffle with a guy with a knife because you know how to defend yourself. So, all these cops are just cowards, the ones that go for the guns too early.
Well said, man. Well said. And actually, when you're talking about the funny, because it was counterfeit. I think $20 bill or something. Now, it's a crime, and especially for the store owner, right? It's not good for the store owner. But like
lynch him. How dare he?
Yeah,
lynch the guy. $20 counterfeit fine.
But I do find it absolutely amazing that the cop is so. I mean, think about it. He's so overly concerned about protecting that store owner from a fake counterfeit $20 bill or two, but yet he's more than willing to get his paycheck from a non-stop string of trillions of dollars that have been printed since just the financial crisis. Like really, like this is that's to me is no, you have to prove that you're consistent, right? If you want to follow orders or enforce the law, then fucking enforce the law. If counterfeiting is illegal, well, how come you're not down there arresting, the head of the Federal Reserve Board, right? Why? right? Because your political masters were telling you that kind of counterfeiting. No, that's okay. That's allowed, right? But this guy, oh, if he does it, oh no, he's not allowed. See, that's what I mean. That's why no one takes people like you, like these people that are like I say, that stick up for the cops and all this shit. The reason why people that think critically about these issues can't take you seriously because you're not consistent in your morals or your ethics. You're playing politics. You're someone that's willing to say a square is round or up is down as long as it suits your political preference. And like if you're willing to do that, like I say, I've heard people spew that kind of rhetoric, and it just falls on deaf ears because I think critically about issues. So, no offense.
I think it boils down to where the Trump or anyone on the right who are pro-military or pro-police, all it comes down to is fear. Fear at the end of the day, because the supporting in them is because they think that, well, Trump probably sees it as if I go and rail against the local police or I go rail against the military and stuff, then maybe Obama and these deep staters then will have the military and police will be pissed off at me because I'm talking truth about them, and it'll edge them against me, and they'll be used against me to do more phony Russia gates and all that kind of try to set me up, and that military will be used against me and the police will be used against me. And Trump's thinking maybe if I coddle the military, maybe if I tell the police they're good, they might actually, when I call on them to go and arrest some people or do some right things, they might actually do it, and rather than coming after me like Russiagate. But Trump's wrong, man. There's good cops and bad cops, and they're already weeded in there. Most of the bad ones or the good ones have been weeded out. They've already set the stage. Okay, you think Clinton, Bush, Obama, they've already laid all the footwork for generations, that they have the cops in place that will follow the orders that they need to.
Yeah. And Tommy Gunn brought out, how about the corruption with the RCMP in New Brunswick? Yeah.
Well, I would love to talk to Tommy Gunn about that. Here's a point for Tommy Gunn about the RCMP and the Halifax shooting and all that kind of stuff. So the cognitive distances of Canadians to say, hey, because that crazy lunatic went door to door that day and just discriminately shot people in Halifax, we need to take everyone's guns. Now, that to me is like, whoa, you have been brainwashed hardcore, because you can make the same analogy that if when he showed up to the first house he showed up to was a gun owner, and maybe he shot the father, and then the wife noticed his husband got shot and she came out with a pistol. Bottom line is the first house was a gun-owning house, and they could have ended the 20-something lives that get killed after. And what is a cop? A cop is a guy coming with a gun. So all you're doing is, oh my God, call someone with a gun remotely to come get me. Why don't we just all own guns in our house, and then you won't have to worry about calling an officer to come deal with the situation with the gun. So when people are like, we need to take the guns because this people killed people, it's like, well, dude, if you guys had guns, you wouldn't have killed everyone.
Yeah. It's so crazy. Well, yeah, I mean, just having the ability to defend yourself, and the fact that, like I say, even when you think about the Bork situation that happened a few years ago, now we only got partial of the story because the media definitely suppressed and redacted a lot of that stuff, because that's the problem, is the media they want to hype up the sensationalized aspect of it to get the views and the clicks, but they never really want to let the public know as to what the underlying what it was, the reason, what was the cause, what would cause a person to want to go out and try to shoot a bunch of police officers. Is it potential that maybe some police officers did something very, very terrible to this person or someone he knew? Who would, like I say, but because we're never given that kind of information and just told to basically move on to the next story, people don't actually think critically enough about why do these things even happen? Or even when I'm seeing now with Gordon answering back here saying that he died from a heart failure, and even official blasphemy saying that positional asphyxia, I guess that's what the coroner called it. It's like as the contributing factor because of something to do with his heart. But it's like, are you really trying to suggest? So you watch?
He's getting into the weeds. He's getting into the weeds. It doesn't matter if the stop was never initiated. There wouldn't have been a death.
Who cares? But even if the stop was initiated, but the guy didn't fucking put his neck. I mean, come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean, if you just place anyone, like I say, take the badge off it. Take take what you deem those people as being, right? Just make them just two NPCs that look exactly the same. And one NPC is doing one thing to the other, and they got their knee. You would under any normal situation or circumstance, if you saw someone kneeling with their knee on a person's neck for minutes on end, and then that person dies at that moment, right? Not 2 hours before, right? Not hours after, literally right then and there. And you still try to find something in your mind that says, oh, well, no, that it wasn't the knee on the neck that killed him. Oh, phew. I can feel good in my conscience now because a coroner has told me that, oh, this guy had other underlying fucking contributing factors.
You know what? A coroner also told everyone that Jeffrey Epstein looked suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, come on.
But
Well, I mean,
but let's focus on the black guy who lost his life, which is a tragedy. But let's skate completely over. The media is not talking about the massive pedophile ring that entrapped all the government deep staters.
it's
But let's
that's
talk about the black guy getting kneeled on.
yeah, it's just that's to me that's so crazy, and like that's the part that why like I say I have such a difficult time with people that would identify as right wingers, and like I say, it's not that but if you're willing to make that like to me, I just couldn't do it. I mean, there's been times in the past, I'll even fess up right now. There's been times where I've tried to make that argument myself to try to like maybe align with people so that they don't hate on me, but just to be consistent and to be able to sleep good at night, I can't do it. And I don't know how you can, I don't know how you can do it because you know you've got to do some serious mental gymnastics to watch that video or to hear about how that whole thing took place and say, oh no, he died because of some heart problem he had. Like, I don't know. I don't know. And like I say, what benefit are you getting? What kind of people are you wanting to surround yourself with that want to believe that shit in the first place? Because tell you the truth, I really wouldn't want you to have you as my fucking neighbor. If you said that stuff to me and we were talking across the fence, I'd be like, oh, fuck. Is this who we got for a neighbor? Really, though? I wouldn't think you're the greatest person on the planet. No offense there. And I'm sure you might not like my channel or unsubscribe from this point, but I'm sorry. I just got to be honest. That sounds weird, man, when you try to defend the cops to that extent. Maybe you're a cop yourself. Well, there's where your cognitive dissonance is coming from.
Well, I would ask that guy, okay, so what? So the cop didn't kill him. Are you still debating the fact that a cop is based on an institution with a monopoly on use of force? Are you still debating that the whole goddamn thing's corrupt and this is why you have the problems we have today? What's his point? It's a minute, little tiny argument. Get thinking of the big picture. Stop talking about the little stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, actually that thing I was going to read earlier, let me just finish that because there was just one section in it that I read and I thought, yeah, this is what needs to. So let me just bring it up real quick again there, Matt, because I did want to bring this up because it is something that I thought was important. Because like I say, I want people on the left to understand, like I'm consistent in my values. I don't want to play politics with bullshit. So like I say, this article out of the CBC, Thousand Rally in Toronto against anti-Black and Indigenous. And I have lots of friends even that are from First Nations community. And we have a lot.
Take my dog out and I'll be right back. You keep talking.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it, Matt. So protest comes on the heels of high-profile police-involved deaths in both Canada and the U.S. Okay, I already covered that May 30th, 2020. Thousands of people took part in a rally in downtown Toronto streets on Saturday in protest of what organizers described as anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism around the world. It's important for me to be here because if I'm not here, then who else is? Sor Sani 17 told CBC Toronto at the rally. So this Sor Sani is just a 17-year-old individual. So that looks like her there, I guess, right? So just a young person. And what I really like to see from people like this is they weren't just protesting or trying to blame white people, right? So the headline is more clicky because CBC loves playing the clicky, the whole race game for the clicks, right? But a little further down the article, glad to hear what this young lady had to say. All lives will not matter until Black ones do. So I would agree with that to a certain degree, but she was saying all lives obviously should matter. The peaceful rally organized by a group dubbed Not Another Black Life comes on the heels of high-profile police-involved deaths in both Canada and the United States. Some of the ensuing protests in the U.S. turned violent. A Minnesota police officer now facing a murder charge. Actually, okay, so no, it was down one more. So this was where I wanted to show you right here. Sandy said the protest was not just about Korshinsky Paquette, so that's that Canadian incident that happened, but about every person that has been killed unjustly and treated unfairly by police and our judicial system. So this is something like I say, and this is obviously a direct quote. Every person that has been killed unjustly and treated unfairly by police and our judicial system. So this is a part where, like I say, put the whole racial difference bullshit aside, right? Forget about the whole in-group preference thing. And I know that a lot of people, it's kind of programmed in you. You were raised to think that way. I get it. I totally understand it. I've been raised around a lot of people that think along the same way, right? But you got to try to break free from that and look at it. The fact that here's this young Black girl, and she's, obviously not trying to suggest that, it's all the white. So this would be a really good time to try to reach out to people such as this Sani. What was her name again? Yeah. and bring this kind of conversation to the forefront where people from both races or multiple races are actually having this discussion, rather than, like I say, I'm sick and tired of seeing the political divide and the division all the time, where they're pitting, special interest groups, or whether it's the LGBT community, or or just people that have different religious backgrounds, or even people from different race, or even the men and women, the whole gender divide, like the whole gender division. I'm so sick and tired of it, because at the end of the day, regardless of your color, regardless of your what's between your legs, individual liberty is something that we should all promote and respect. I mean, we're all individuals, right? My freedoms rest and rely on giving you your freedoms. And I understand that intrinsically. And the reason why I don't walk around every day having to look over my shoulders, because I actively look to make sure other people realize that I want you to have your freedoms. So that greatly reduces the potential of anyone wanting to cause harm to me, because most people that I've ever met in my life realize, oh no, Bennett, he's just a live guy. And because I have that reputation, that history, then, like I said, I don't have to spend my life looking over my shoulders. But if you do try to get into these games where you do want to use force or violence towards others yourself, or you promote or support that kind of stuff, well, that's when you get in the area where I guess you do seem like you got to navigate the world fearful that someone might retaliate against you, right? So don't use force or violence. Don't promote that stuff. Don't support it. And then you like I said, you'll end up not only being a better person yourself, but you'll create an atmosphere or an environment where you have a whole lot more better people. That's how we get to it, folks. It's all about an intellectual evolution in terms of understanding what it is to be a free human being, and how we should socially or economically interact or engage with each other. And it's real simple concepts that most of us all learned as very small children. Don't hit, don't steal, don't rape. Very simple concepts, like I say, but it has to be universalized. And if we universalize it, then we end up with ultimately a much more peaceful, prosperous, and healthy society of people that are, not sociopathic in nature, as we're seeing today. A lot of sociopaths, which is why a lot of people end up on a lot of prescription drugs, or now you even have the police or the military who have like PTSD and stuff. Yeah, stop putting these people in these positions, and stop accepting these positions that's so detrimental to your mental health or to the health of society in general. Anyways, did Matt make it back? Let me see here, because I got that. There we go. Okay. Let me close this one up. I just wanted to cover that. So go ahead there, Matt.
Yeah, no problem. No, I think we pretty well covered everything. I mean, I'll just
go
back to
okay.
I'll
Go
just
ahead.
go back to the main point. I always like to leave everyone on solutions. So, a lot of the people out there supporting the rioting, a lot of people saying it's vented frustration, and I get all that stuff, but it's time to talk solutions. It's one thing to go out there and vent your anger, but if you don't got any solution, and we've been fighting this problem intergenerationally, then the problem is going to be privatizing police. Getting the monopoly out of the industry. Making it so that we have an option to choose different police forces to take our businesses elsewhere. Because you know what, if you can't take your business elsewhere, this is why police get paid vacations. This is why you see doctors, security guards, and not doctor. I already said doctors. Doctors, security guards, firemen. You don't see these people interaction with people with mental illnesses and killing them and shooting them, is because they have to use different strategies to de-escalate those people. So when we remove the monopoly that the police have on the service, we'll fix a lot of these problems. So that is the true solution: is community policing, paying for your own policing, and having the ability that when the services are shitty and people are getting murdered by them, you could just withhold your funding. The same way, I use this analogy in one of my videos. If you had the only pizza shop in all of the town, what's your incentive to have the best quality pizza or the best service? Now, you might, out of your own ethics, because you want to be a good person, you want to have a good business, have good products, but you might slip up, and you might always think that, hey, no matter what, how crappy the pizza is, people are going to come buy it because it's the only pizza in town, and if they want it, they'll come get it, right? Well, that's kind of what we're dealing with policing. We have to deal with all the abuse and the institutional injustices, because it's the only police force in town. It's the only way to influence the laws. And me and my father always say we want a bunch of the more smaller government, the better. I wish that Canada would divide itself up and each province was its own individual country, and then each individual cities would be their own countries, and just getting everything localized and privatized and back to the smaller numbers. That's how things can be kept more manageable. And then this big, huge thing that governs over every single person in these massive numbers. You get a population of 100 million people, 300 million people in the States, 30 million in Canada. There's no way that we can put one person in charge or even a couple hundred people in charge from their local divisions and universally enforce the rules over everyone when we know people in Alberta think differently from people in Toronto and different places in different parts of the globe. People think differently, people live differently. So that's why universalizing principles across the board, if it's not okay to hit, steal, murder, and all that for one person, it's not okay for anyone. And that's how you get to true solutions and fixing a lot of these problems.
Exactly. And actually, let me just cover this. But before I do, I just want to say to add to that is, yeah, why rely on this false pretense of a social contract that we all know doesn't exist, right? It's a false pretense. None of us, and we all know this, none of us are, why pretend? We live in the internet age where we have smart contracts readily available based on blockchain technology where, yeah, you could actually hold people to account properly, right? All built on 256-bit AES encryption, military. I mean, we're talking like it would take every supercomputer on the planet to try to crack these codes. So yeah, if we want to have a pretense of a social contract, yeah, if you want to have, like say, if you want to have hospitals, you want to have healthcare, you want to have the roads, just have a contract with people that provide these services, right? And make sure that you can withdraw your support if they do something wrong. The way government's set up now, you know damn well they take your money without your permission, and you have no way to hold them to account in any way other than every 4 or 5 years, you get to be one of millions of people that gets to choose. Hey, hopefully, if enough other people choose to go against these people, then I'll be able to get rid of this politician or this political party. But you just end up with another one, just of different stripes or different colors. But you never get to actually get what you actively chose or what you believed that original contract entailed. Because that's the other thing. When laws are being rewritten or updated or new laws or new legislation, well, did you sign? Even if you pretended that you signed the contract when you were a kid, right? Or as when you first got your, I don't know, social insurance card. Oh, okay, that's fine. Well, they've been rewriting the rules ever since. Did you go and reread the new contract and re-sign again? I mean, come on, it's all bullshit. If you want to hold anyone to account, just like you would if you went into a Walmart, right, and you bought something and it broke down, well, you want to make sure that the contract says that if this breaks down, I should be able to return it. And the contract actually states that so that you can hold Walmart to account and take back that product and get your money back. The government, you have no way to hold them to account now. But in the modern internet age, especially in particular, although it's not absolutely necessary, but it makes it much more seamless and possible, smart contracts can make an actual contract something that you could hold people to account. So if you want to have police forces, like I say, make sure these police forces are beholden to the contract. And if they breach that contract, you as the individual cannot just withdraw your support, but because the rules are defined clearly within the contract, you can hold them to account by taking them to an arbiter or a judge or whoever else. Anyways, let me check out this Saniko. Thanks for the $10 donation there, Saniko. I really appreciate that. Okay, you guys need to get the documents from the investigation showing that Floyd was in the police vehicle, then pulled out. The other officer on his back is also contributing fact. I don't doubt that for a minute, Saniko. And to be honest with you, I appreciate the added information, but at the end of the day, I don't really care about getting into the nitty gritty details of that particular incident. I've seen it, and over the last 10 years, trust me, especially there for a while, it seemed to be very prevalent, and it was dominant in my news feed there for quite some time. Of a lot of police brutality videos, and to be honest with you, I don't really care for watching a lot of those things. I try to refrain. I like to keep a little bit of sensibility to me. Call me weird that way.
You're just beating a dead horse when you know the solutions.
Yeah. To me, so really, at the end of the day, I don't really need to see. I just know that it does happen. We know these people are going to these positions, knowing full well that it's not like they're not the benevolent force that people pretend they are, right? So there's a lot of soul searching that needs to take place by a lot of people who are current enforcers of the state or order followers. The ones that won't, they won't. They'll continue to take that paycheck and do whatever the hell they're told to. But for those good cops out there, or for those of you who want to promote and espouse that there are good cops out there, I entice you to show people like myself with a clear example that you do exist, because I've yet to see it. And until I see it, you can point something to me all day long. Oh, look, it's right over there. But until I see it, well, you can point out your invisible friend, but I'm never going to believe that that person actually exists until I can actually see it for himself. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, voting for government masters every 4 years, I like to compare things to it. So, we got cell phone contracts, and they make a lot of people upset set. But can you imagine if you walked into a cell phone company and they said, okay, we're going to sign a contract with you for 3-4 years. But also in the contract, we're going to have written that any point in time through those 3 to 4 years, we can up the price to however much. You're locked in. We can dictate the rules and change them. So we can make it so 1 minute you're covered if your phone gets damaged, and next you're not. You're like, I signed this contract. There's nothing there, man. You can change the price one day. You can change the rules. Why the hell would I sign that? That's government, people. It's a contract that you didn't even sign, that you socially signed, supposedly, that they just change the rules on every single day, depending on who the master is.
Yeah. I'm just looking at a couple of comments here. Red Rum. A group of cops oddly sit there holding a guy down for 20 minutes, allowing themselves to be filmed. Sounds like you were watching Stefan Molyneux, Red Rum.
No, there's a lot of people speculating that the whole thing was synthetic. Now, I myself, unlike my father, like to dabble in the conspiracy more. I like to go down that rabbit hole. Now, who knows if it's true or not? But there is a lot of things coming out now that do seem suspicious. The fact that they may have worked together in the past. Which whatever. I mean, who cares? Maybe they worked together in the past. Maybe they haven't seen each other 10 years and you didn't hardly recognize the guy. That's whatever. Then there's also, I've seen memes coming out where these guys have knew each other, and I don't know, some really weird things. I mean, weird correlations and connections. So who knows? Maybe. But the point at Red Rum, I think what you're getting, even if the thing is whole thing conspiracy, it's all crisis actors, Alex Jones, it's all set up. We're still getting back to the main problem. The government's an institution with monopoly on use of force. Police needs more competition in the market. So me and my father just don't like getting in the weeds, because that's what we're trying to fight against, is people like Molyneux and Cernovich and all these other people that we like to follow ourselves to get information from, who are falling into that similar bandwagon of talking about wherever the media outrage points their big spotlight on.
Yeah, I'm just looking through some of the comments there, Matt, because we're at 1:45, so we'll probably tie it up at 2 hours, but I wouldn't mind just getting see what some of the folks.
Yeah, tell them any questions for the next 15 minutes. We'll feel free to answer.
Cool. Awesome. And thanks for doing this with me, Matt. It's really awesome, because I know, like I say, I don't even know if you want to even maybe take a couple minutes. Nah, I don't know. It's up to you. But you've obviously, my son has had his own incident, and I don't know if you want to bring it up here now in the stream or not, but if not, it's all good. But
all I can say is I know firsthand, just like my father, that police can brutalize you. I can't get in too much of the weeds of it because it's still going through the courts right now, and hopefully I can talk about it later. But I will tell you that, the people that say, well, just sue police. Well, here's another thing about suing police officers. Even when you sue a police officer, you as a taxpayer pay. So the whole system's designed there to fail. And also, what a lot of people don't tell you, lawsuits are very expensive. To take a lawsuit, the distance from the minute you file it with the courts to the point where you actually get a trial, you're looking at an average of 6 to 8 to 10 years. So, I mean, just think of waiting 10 years to actually get justice from a cop beating the hell out of you or something. And for that matter, costly experiences. So, to give you an average idea, here in Canada, to take a thing all the way to trial, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars. So in that self, the whole system is designed that, well, if you're poor, if you don't got, if you're not ready to remortgage your house, if you don't got a bunch of money sitting around to sue the police, who have endless resources at the taxpayers' dispense, there is no justice ever. And I think that's why you're seeing more people who are going to seek justice, unfortunately, at the side of the road with the officer, because the officer and the courts and everyone will tell you, you know what, fight it in court. Don't argue the ticket on the side of the road. But if you know that when you get to the court and the whole goddamn system's designed to screw you over, you're going to see more violence enacted on the side of the street with the officer. And me and my father ain't calling for that, but I'm telling you, the writing's on the wall when we know where it's going to go if the police don't smarten their ass up.
Yeah, so true. That's the thing. Once you realize that almost everyone that you'll deal with when you've had an encounter with the police, and like I say, I've gone through this myself, and not because of anything that I did to harm him. Had a few beer on my four-wheeler. Anyways, forget about it. But once you realize that it's not just the officers, the judges, the prosecutor, everyone is all paid by the state, right? They're all part of one giant organization, and it's you. And if you don't have the money to have a high-praised lawyer, which very few people do in the working class like I am, you're overwhelmed. I mean, it would be an exceptional thing for someone to be able to even win under such circumstances, other than like maybe having video footage. But even if you do, that still doesn't unwind all the hell you've had to go through. Even if you ultimately, like Matt's saying, even if you ultimately win your case, you don't get back all that time, all that angst, all that, pent up frustration and the emotional bullshit that you got to go through to deal with it. All that stuff. And I mean, for me, it's caused me 10 years of the most productive years of my life. I'll never get back 10 years of my goddamn life where I could have been, like I say, and I was in my most productive years. I've lost a tremendous amount, and that's just the economic side of things, but even on the social side of things, even my psychology has changed me profoundly. Now I try, rather than use it to beat me down, which it could have happened, I could have turned out to go the other way and could have just said, you know what, I'm going to be evil like these fuckers are, and I'll just, but no, I want to hold myself to a better place. That's why I try to do these things, is figure out what are ways that we can get out from underneath this stuff, rather than like use our petty anger and resentment to just, inflict violence on someone else and hope that maybe somehow that'll make us feel better. Because it's never worked for me. I have been in fights and I've used violence myself. Does it ever make me feel good? No, maybe in the moment for a second, but then after that, it actually causes more harm than it ever does good. But anyways, as far as Red Rum goes, just so you know that I wasn't trying to misrepresent you in any way. I'm sorry about that in case I did. But should we talk about the whites assaulted during this? I wish it was so, but yes. Listen, like, to me, I take the race completely out of it. And I realize even with these rioters, there are some really ridiculous rioters down there that are just a bunch of petty thugs and criminals themselves who are taking advantage of the fact, there's an area where I can do a crime and maybe fly under the radar a little better because everyone else is rioting. Of course, damn well opportunist criminals are going to do it, just like I say. But at the end of the day, let's take the race out of it, right? Let's just take the race colors out of it entirely, or gender, whether they're male or female, let's be consistent in our views. Whether they're white, black, brown, or whoever the hell they are, First Nations people, I don't care who they are, no one deserves to be brutalized in such a manner or treated in such a way as this person does, by sheer fact that he was, doing, and it was an illegal activity. I'm not suggesting that the person should have been slapped on the wrist and said, okay, go away. You shouldn't be, obviously using counterfeit money, because that was a detriment to that store owner. Because when that store owner goes to, cash that money in, well, they've lost out on that because they're not going to accept it at the bank, right? But like I say, was it deemed a crime such a high crime that he needed to lose his life as a consequence of result? No, this is a time, like I say, these are times, as sad as they are, this is the most opportune time for those of you who are on the right to say, you know what? No, I'm going to do the right thing right now. And I'm going to say, you know what? Fuck these cops. You fucked up. You did the wrong goddamn thing. And I'm going to show solidarity with anybody. I don't care what your political stripe or background is. They did wrong. And if you do that, you have no idea how much a dividend that will pay off in the long run. You might get some Antifa people or left wingers out there saying, oh, I hated that right winger. But the fact that he was willing to put his own, ideology or his political preference aside to stand in solidarity with me today, wow. And you have no idea. Now you've gone from escalating tensions to the point where now some of those people might be looking at you and want to befriend you in some way. And that could be a very, very powerful message. Think of how powerful a message it is, even when you see some little video. I saw one was it this morning or yesterday, where it was like, it was in Michigan, down in Detroit, where some little short, stubby white cop shaking a hand and elbow bumping with the black people that were protesting the lockdowns, right? That's the kind of stuff that can bring people together. But playing this kind of political division, right, or playing that left-right game, like I say, it's only going to be a detriment to us all. Because like I say, whether the left's in power, they're going to try to impose their will on the right-wingers, or whether it's the right-wingers in power, they're going to try to impose their power on the... Can we just get to the point where we're not doing that? We're not trying to impose our will on each other. Let's get back to the live mentality. And like I say, we'll all be better off for it. Anyways, go ahead there, Matt. Oh, you want me to see?
Any more questions? Anyone send more questions in? We got about 8 minutes left here.
Okay, yeah. So let me see what we got here. So Jake Fillmore, hey, thanks for joining the stream. Jake, really appreciate that. So Nico, then, oh, wait, no. So then they yell at him to get in the car. How held down? Oh, never mind. They're talking amongst each other there, I guess. So hold on one sec. Let's see what else we got here. It is in the legal documents. Oh, this is just a statement, but should have camcord in one's car. Yeah, dash cam is actually not a bad idea to have. I would definitely agree with that, having a dash cam. Mine malfunctioned, but I had one that actually would turn on and record. You could set 5, 10, or 15 minutes at a time. You put a little SD card in. I'm sure they got even better ones than that. And you can even Wi-Fi stream it if you're in an area that's got Wi-Fi. But yeah, it's a good idea.
just a little
Sorry, go ahead.
side note there. You know what I
Yeah.
think is very cool? Like I sometimes will go on YouTube and I'll find a video of like the 1960s or 50s and I'll watch New York and it'll be cool. Like you're like watching a video, you're kind of in a time machine and just like think about how cool it is because we record everything. Like it's right, dash cameras, our phones, everything's being recorded. Imagine what people are going to look back on in the future when they look back on us. Like our life is so digitalized and recorded. We're going to be able to like live through our eyes almost like what was it like to live in Matthew Hunter's time and kind of all these algorithms. I guess that's the only benefit to all this spying and all this technology. I guess is at least we're gonna have. I guess the Alexander, the Library of the Alexander. What is it?
Oh
Library of
yeah.
Alexander. That
Yeah.
got burned down with all the
Yeah.
books. Well,
Yeah.
basically all this tech stuff, man. We're gonna have one hell of a library for all future generations, hopefully, to know what not to do and the mistakes and learn from all this stuff by putting out this information.
Yeah. Actually, now that Taniko brought this up, I believe I'm pronouncing his name right. Anyways, so glad that you brought that up because I actually did have one more article in the background that I was going to reference, and I do got a couple minutes left, so I'll just cover a little bit of it, not too much. But I believe you're correct, and like I say, I want to make sure that we're covering all aspects of this story. And yeah, the police union thing, I think that's something that's worthy of consideration. So let me make sure you can see this now. Yeah, okay. So this is out of Reason Magazine, a libertarian publication. In case you're not familiar, definitely check them out. They're an excellent, like it's a great source, not just for news, but anything relating to liberty. This is for regarding George Floyd. Even police unions trash the actions of the cop who killed George Floyd. Are we seeing a tipping point where police begin to grasp why the public is so outraged? So this was contributed by Scott Shackford on May 29th, 2020. So like I say, I'll just read a little bit of it. After New York City Police Department Officer Daniel Pantaleo was videotaped confronting and choking Aaron Garnier. Okay, so I remember that to death in 2014. Public outrage over what had happened was fueled in part by a defiant, I got to put this a little bigger, police unions in the city who refused to consider the possibility that Pantaleo's conduct was unacceptable and unnecessary. Even after, what is it? Panatleo's eventual termination, which only happened 5 years later, organizations like the Police Revolution Association took Pantaleo's side, calling for work slowdowns, which backfired as crime continued to decline in New York City without their help. The unions generally acted like both mayor and police commissioner had betrayed the police by holding an officer responsible for killing somebody under circumstances in which it was completely unnecessary to protect public safety. This has long been typical police union behavior, which makes some of the union responses to the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis on Monday surprising. Police unions are coming forward not to defend Derek Chauvin, the police officer who pressed his knee on Floyd's neck for nearly 8 minutes, but to agree that Chauvin's behavior was inappropriate and unacceptable. So this, like I say, is what I want to see happening in places such as Canada. I'm glad to see that this is an example that's taken place down in the US. And, this might go a long way, right, to get some of that reconciliation between the people and these police officers. Because like I say, there's a lot of healing that needs to take place. But at the very least, at least it seems that some police unions here, let me just break this off because I didn't want to read too much of it. It'll be in the description of the video. But at the very least, I do want to see where this is actually taking place because we're not going anywhere. We're going to be stuck in place unless we can get these police officers and their unions and people who are part and parcel of the ruling or the enforcer class or the order followers who are showing the public that you are showing solidarity with them and you're not there to be the oppressors or enforcers of the state. You are there to defend their inherent and inalienable rights, freedoms, and liberties. And if you can show that with true cause and where you can, put that in a video form or come onto a stream like myself where we can, I'd be more than willing to share that around because I want us to get back to the place of peace where we're not perceiving the people who are supposed to be, the arbiters of refereeing any social engagements that, comes to do with the crime or justice system. I want us to get to the point where we actually perceive each other as just fellow citizens rather than this this divisive thing where it's the people against the state and their enforcers. Because once you've created that environment and that atmosphere, well, this is what you get. We're all divided amongst each other. And at the end of the day, even as some of the right wingers have pointed out in the chat, and I agree with, they are just humans at the end of the day as well. But for them to show that they are the kind of humans that deserve the respect and admiration that you wish for, they have to be willing to do what these police unions are doing and saying, or like that police officer down in the US that recorded himself in his own vehicle saying that I don't support the lockdowns and I will not follow the orders. If a politician tells me to follow an order and I recognize it infringes the rights of the citizens in my county or my country, I will not follow those orders. Like I say, get some of those Canadian cops start saying that, and we'll have a much better potential relationship going forward. I assure you that. Anyways, what do you think, Matt? You want to say something? And
no, any more questions? And if
okay,
there's
let me
a few more, we'll take a couple, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, Canada's problem begins with the Queen. Well, that's true, but she's not really having a whole lot to say too much in terms of what the people see. Now, I get when people say that people function behind the scenes. And actually, I'm glad you brought up the whole thing with the Queen, because I hear people saying, even when you're talking about like conspiracies in terms of like something like, or not even conspiracy, it could be very real. Actually, I believe it is real. So let's say George Soros pulling the strings, right? Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah. And even people that rail against corporations. Ooh, these corporations, they got all this power. I'm totally, the reason why where I find where we divide is like, okay, I get you that George Soros is a corrupt piece of shit. I get that there's, people behind the scenes, very powerful people they're acting like puppet masters. But once again, for the typical Canadian or the typical American, who is it that they have to follow the orders through? It's those in government. Like, no one believes that George Soros, has any legitimate authority over the Canadian citizenry. So George Soros, yeah, he's a very powerful and very wealthy and what I perceive as an evil man, no doubt. And I'm sure he has a lot of ability to affect a lot of different things. But how does he do that? Through way of politics. So whether he's paying for the protesters, what they're ultimately doing is the protesters are railing for government to do something. So they're still all, at the end of the day, whether it's through George Soros, the banking institutions, the central banks, at the end of the day, all that power rests and resides in one place. And that's the institution called government. They all use the state as their ultimate means to the end. So yes, there's lots of people that could do some really bad things and got a lot of powerful connections. But at the end of the day, they use the pretense of the state to make sure that that they get what they want at the end of the day, because it's the state that is the ultimate arbiter or the ultimate authority in any jurisdiction, right? But yeah, so let me move on, because that's something, like I say. Yes, the Queen probably, and she has some ways to pull strings, just like the attorney or the Governor General of Canada. She's got, but like I said, it's the Canadian people. They're looking at Trudeau. They're looking at Ford. It's the people that are in the position of premiership or prime minister are the ones that they believe are their ultimate authority. That's where you got to knock that stuff out entirely. Made from, you made, I don't know where this one came from, but hey, what the hell? Made for the first time butter chicken yesterday, and it was yummy. That's awesome.
Sounds good.
Hey, thanks for but you know what? Tell you the truth, that's funny though, but it's totally off topic, but I actually love butter chicken. That's good stuff, tell you the truth. But yeah, let's move on. That was a little bit out of the left field there. That's what Trudeau says. Canada's a post-nation state with no identity, so the prince has decreed. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the hell. Yeah. Well, that's Trudeau, yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Rika, I forgot to mention Rika in the chat. Very nice to see you, Rika. Really great to see you. Order followers are the problem. I agree. Well, the state and the order and followers of the state, right? 100% with you there. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, Jerome Wrong said right on Bennett and Matthew. Thank you, Jerome. Appreciate that. I like that, Rika. Bootlicker. Nice. Awesome. Worst with Charles. The rule of law, many may matter to us, not the cops. Yeah. Okay, what's this? Heard the royal seals removed from the gate. Like I said, I don't know. Like I said, not too many Canadians that I know of, I've ever heard of, believe that the Queen has any power over them anymore. So I'm not really worried about her too much. Like I say, freedom is a state of mind. You just got to remove people's belief in that authority. But you have to have enough people to remove that belief from, right? But like I said, not too many people believe that the Queen is their ultimate authority right now. So I'm not too worried about her. The mayor abandoning a police station is a tad odd. Ever heard of it before? The mayor abandoned
Yeah.
the police station. What happened? Do you know anything about that, man?
Yeah, so Minneapolis, their left-wing mayor there, one of the things that
Oh, okay.
happened early on is the third precinct, a lot of the police officers bailed out of there and left the building. Now, the police officers will make the excuse, well, they're throwing like they're throwing stuff at the building. We thought that we could be caught inside. Now, in other countries and other nations, you see a more heavy police presence and they don't give up the building. But in Minneapolis, they basically cleared out the building for the rioters. Well, what do you think is going to happen with the empty police building? Of course, the rioters. So it was like they're almost setting it up to be burnt down. So I think that's what he's trying to get at.
Okay. I just wanted to read this. Thank you very much, Helen. You're a very sweet lady. One of these days I will give you Canadian Libertarians some money. Don't have much, but I love you. You are consistent, caring, aware, compassionate, and loving. Well, listen, Helen, when it comes to that, I swear to God, and I have heard, I know other people say this too, which makes me feel like I'm just repeating it, but I really genuinely mean it when I say, if you don't have any money, I know, believe me, I know what it's like to not, I don't, to me, a great thing that people can do, which is what I do. See, I don't have money to help support people. So when I watch people's stuff, I don't have any money to offer them. I'm pretty poor myself, as I mentioned, but what I do, right? And that's, and people accept that. And like, I'm glad because I'm offering value is share the stuff, right? I always make sure I like anything. When I see something, I always hit the like, because that sends a message to the algorithm or whatever that, I'm engaging with this. So it gives that the person to get that reach out there even further, or sharing it myself on my own platform. So, or commenting, just every little thing that you can do and help in any way to get my channel spread out there. That's even much better than just the money. To be honest with you, if I could get my information spread out there and me never even have to rely on having to get a dime from anyone, I feel like that my job is done. Because at the end of the day, I just want to live in a country that respects my autonomy, my sovereignty, my freedom, where I don't have people trying to fuck with me because they don't like how I live. Because ultimately, that's when I think about my life, how I've dealt with people for the most of my life externally, my own family, I've had family issues, but externally, I deal with people with tremendous, but I don't want to live in a country where people feel so resentful of each other that they use the state against each other. I want to get the state so limited and so restricted and so confined to the point, well, hopefully eventually it just disappear, but to the point where we can treat each other with more respect. Because I feel that the rise of the state has made it so that we don't trust each other anymore. And it's causing a tremendous amount of people to be resentful of each other, or even when you perceive of other people's success. If you're not successful yourself, then you're looking in some way. That's where the socialism thing comes in, right? Where people are like, well, I can't achieve any amount of success. Chances are a lot of the times where you might be not being able to achieve your success, it might have to do with the fact that, first of all, you might have been raised the wrong way because people had the wrong ideas, right? That's the beautiful thing about the modern advancements in philosophy and all this knowledge that we're gaining, is we're figuring out better ways for us to cohabitate and coexist with each other in a much more peaceful manner where we respect each other. So if we can do that, then I think that's all we really need to do at the day. And as far as donating to me, if you're poor, don't worry about doing that. Just help me get this message out, please. That's all I really care about. Get this message out. And I know it's uncomfortable. Even myself, when I started sharing stuff years ago, I was like, yeah, all my friends are going to hate me for this. But then I thought, well, if they hate me for what I'm doing, and all I'm really doing at the end of the day is trying to talk about reasonable things, take a proper ethical stance on issues, well, then they're not very good people to begin with. And you know what? Let the garbage take itself out. And I've watched quite a bit of garbage has left. Matter of fact, I realized, damn, a lot of the people that I perceived as my friends weren't really much friends after all. I guess it was whatever I could do for them. It was the only thing I was good to them, right? But anyways, I digress on that one. But Jerome's saying, take care, Bennett and Matthew and Missy and everyone. Thank you very much, Jerome. Let me see what else we got here. The cop station was a setup on Twitter. Lots of reports of pallets of bricks. All their cities just showed up. Once again, Drady, I'm not going to get into the if I'm not knowledgeable on it, I just won't say much. Hey, what's going on, Steve? Ryan, haven't seen you in quite some time, actually. Nice to see you in the stream there. Well said, Helen. Thank you. Anyways, anyone else have any more questions here? Because I know there's still quite a stuff I got to scroll through, but I don't want to go too much longer. We're already 2 hours and 7 minutes here. Okay, let's see. State forces. Okay. Dems want Trump to be the heavy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know about the Antifa being a terrorist group. Like I said, I'm not sure if that's going to prove to be as beneficial as you think, because now they're definitely going to want to look to retaliate, to turn like Yellow vesters, like right wing. What's next? You know, I know a lot of the yellow vesters in Canada were right wingers or PPC supporters. A lot of them probably just decent people that just wanted to have a decent shot in life and not be oppressed. But, you know, once you start labeling groups that are politically active as terrorist organizations, right now, like, see what's next. What's Trudeau going to step up? Oh, Trump's going to label Antifa. Okay, well, maybe the Trudeau liberals will start calling yellow vesters or.
Well, if government too at any point in time is going to start labeling people who are violent against them or their institutions as terrorists and stuff like that, what happens when the government gets too tyrannical and there's a point where you need to be resistant yourself? You think then, like we said, you're going to be labeled as a terrorist yourself. So be careful who you give that power to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, you know, you make a good point there, Stuart. But here's the thing, though, is I live in the same country, and I'm pretty sure that the government doesn't like anything I say. I'm pretty sure I say probably things even worse than what a cop might say towards the state. But I'm still brave and bold enough to say it. And like, I don't even have like the whole. I don't have a police union to back me up. I don't have anything. Like, I don't have giant organizations with, you know, billions or millions of dollars at their disposal to defend me or to go through the courts if I was ever punished or penalized by the state. So these cops, I get what you're saying, that we don't actually have a First Amendment, and that's why the cops aren't likely to come forward. But that's basically giving them an excuse to be cowardly and conformist, isn't it? Right? Because I could use that same excuse for me. As a matter of fact, I'd have a much better way for that excuse sticking for me, because I literally don't have any position in government that I can fall back on, or a whole gang of enforcers that will have my back. I'm literally out here mostly, not entirely, but, you know, isolated alone for the most part doing this stuff. So if I'm brave or bold enough to do it, and knowing how much the state despises everything that I say, I just can't afford that kind of excuse for the police. But I get what you're saying. And it is a shame that in Canada that we don't have a recognized genuine First Amendment. But see, I don't acknowledge that the state gives me my rights. See, when you say that, Gordon, you're basically suggesting that just because someone in the Canadian government hasn't written on parchment or paper or on a digital screen that they respect your right for freedom of speech, that you don't have it. See, I don't go by that. I don't go by what the state tells me. See, that's the thing. I separate the state from clear and concise objective language and principles. So to me is, by being born on this planet, I'm a free human being. Now I require a whole lot of my fellow Canadians to respect that freedom for it to actually flourish, because as much as there's freedom I want to claim to have my own, if the rest of my peers in Canada don't want me to have that freedom, well, the only freedom that I'll truly have at the end of the day will be in my mind. That's the only thing they will never be able to take from me. But my physical freedoms rely on my fellow Canadians respecting those freedoms. And that requires these police in particular to respect those freedoms. And like I say, there's a lot of them that have, like, they've been trained, right? They're in a pretty good position. I would assume that they have a few bucks at their disposal. They've been employed for, you know, take a little time out of your day to do the right thing. And like I say, the dividends will pay off long off into the future for these police. So yeah, they might have to worry about, what are they going to worry about, Gordon? That Trudeau will come after them? Because I'll tell you, if these police ever stood up and said, I'm defending the Canadian people's rights and their freedoms, and fuck Trudeau and his ilk, I'm pretty sure a lot of Canadians would be more than willing to stand in solidarity with those police officers and defend them, right? And who's going to go against them? Who's going to put them in, lock them up behind bars? What, their fellow police officers, right? So that's what I mean. No, actually, police are in a perfect position, I think, that they should be having the resolve and the courage to stand up and do the right thing now. And like I say, if they do it, not only will we pay off dividends for them long off in the future, but it also can get the rest of us as Canadians back into the mindset where we can actually start to trust some of the people who are supposed to be doing the right thing. But we're the reason why we're so disgruntled and outraged and pissed off at the Canadian police forces, because we're not seeing that. We're seeing corruption time and time again by them and their political rulers, and nobody is standing up for the people. So let's get the police officers in this country. Stop worrying about the fact that the government hasn't given them the right to speak freely, and just start doing it anyways. Okay, so what did you have anything you want to say about that, Matt, or anything?
No, other than just the fact that, we won't truly have freedom until people literally take the term "give me liberty, give me death" seriously. Yeah, I wear the Molon Lavi shirt, which symbolizes, the Spartan helmet, and I love one of my favorite movies ever made and produced was definitely the 300 movie, and the story behind the Leonidas and the Spartans, and the whole concept being that, they were outnumbered 10, or, if you want to go by historical accounts, whatever, but the point is their armies were outnumbered by tenfold by the Persians. They rolled up on their shores and they said, listen, we outnumber you. It's almost certain death. Your women and children are going to be raped and taken into slavery, and all you men will be killed. And what did Leonidas say? I'd rather have my wife raped, my child raped and killed, and me killed than bend the knee. And that's where you truly achieve freedom, is when you don't fear death itself. And that's what the Star Wars and all the movie analogies, fear leads to the dark side, like Yoda say. They put it in through pop culture. We go and worship these movies like The Patriot and everything, but then we'll leave the theater and say that was a great movie, and then we'll just think it's a movie, and I don't care about the messaging behind it.
I know, right? I was just trying to figure out what these guys are talking about here in the chat. I don't know if they're talking about us or if they're talking about each other, but anti-white a-libertarian. I'm not sure. Anyways, I've seen this person show up in the stream before. Listen to this username. Oh, actually, they like people say their username. So actually, let me just put it up on the screen so you can see it. Oh yeah, how you like that username? Don't even give them the pleasure. Don't even give them the pleasure of saying it, because that's ridiculous. Yeah. But, anyway, but anti-white libertarian, like where would you even get anything that we're literally white ourselves?
Yeah.
But this is one of those people, like I say, and chances are it's probably one of those right-winger military guys that all them libertarians just won't join with us and be good little fucking national socialists like the rest of us. And I actually hear them. That's the thing. Not only do I hear the nationalism talked about by some of these right-winger YouTubers in Canada, but now I'm even hearing them where they're promoting socialism. So it's like, okay, now you've gone to full, like, yeah. Like, come on. Like, that's why I just can't trust them, because they love, that's what it is. The nationalists, they love socialism. It's just, but for their own kind. Yeah. Well, we love to steal to provide for our own, but we don't like to steal to provide for anyone else. So it's all about in-group events, but it's the stealing. It's that forced wealth and income redistribution. That's kind of the big problem to start with. But anyways, but I don't know. Let me see.
All right, we could probably wrap it up here then.
Yeah.
If there's no more.
Yeah, because now we're getting into someone's using. Yeah, look at this one. Yeah. Here. Yeah. These guys are nuts.
Yeah.
All right. So they waited. Of course, they waited to wait till the very last minute when the stream's getting ready to tie up. But anyways, matter of fact, actually, any of you folks want to come on the stream, like actually show your face for, like, not be a coward and sit behind this fucking keyboard all the time. I'll bring you on, and I'll allow you the opportunity to talk as much smack about me as you want. That's what it is to be a courageous human being. Is I don't shy away or back down from anyone. So like I say, I'll give you the opportunity on my own platform if you actually show the courage to come on. Just like usual, I've had this stuff posted up on my social media pages for years, and I would never hold my breath, because I've never had one actually take me up on my challenge. Isn't that wild, though, when you think about it? Not one person has chosen to take me up on that. You'd think one at least would like figure, oh no, I'll be able to take him down. I'm smarter than he. You'd think one would be at least courageous enough to say, no, I know I can take Bennett down. I'll make him look bad. Apparently, you folks are pretty weak in your mind. You don't have a whole lot of faith in yourself, right? So that's actually might be the problem. You lack a tremendous amount of self-esteem. That's probably why you look to the state, right? That might be something you want to work on in your own personal life. Get your personal life in order. Get a little self-esteem about yourself, and maybe you won't have to worry about relying on the state to take care of you from cradle to grave. But anyways, Matt, yeah, I'll just tie this up. But like I say, I really appreciate Matt coming on and do the stream with us. And we're probably going to get the point now where we're going to try to do a stream like once a month or so. Matt is busy. He's got lots of stuff he has to do on his own. And like I say,
I'm fighting the state behind closed doors. I'm every day doing the good fight.
Yeah, no, I know. Oh, I know. You're always still doing your thing. But like I say, we're probably going to get to the point where but this stream here, it's going to stay on my Canadian Libertarian channel. But if we're going to be doing subsequent, like we're going to start doing, let's say, monthly streams, what I'm going to do is they're all going to be uploaded to, we had actually started doing this about a year and a half ago, but Matt had to do other things and got busy. So we didn't finish doing them. But if we get back in them, I'll just start doing those live streams on that channel because it's called Liberty Hunter Podcast. It's mine and his channel. It was set up as mine and his channel. And if it does become at some point in time monetized or any revenue, I'll be sharing that with Matt because it's our own joint venture. So this, like I say, this stream here will be on the Canadian Libertarian channel, but most subsequent streams, like I say, so if you wouldn't mind, go over and subscribe to the Liberty Hunter Podcast. If you even just go to my channel right now, the Canadian Libertarian channel, and you just go to the About section or the main page, you'll see there's a section where it says affiliated channel or something. Just click on that, subscribe to it. Like I say, it's called the Liberty Hunter Podcast, and that's where we'll be uploading subsequent streams after this. But like I say, I really appreciate
throw my new channel down in the About section as well. It's Matthew Hunter. You might not find it easily since it's a popular name and there's a lot of channels Matthew Hunter, but you can find it in his About section and go over there. It's a new channel. Show me some love, and the more support I see, it encourages me to go and do a video, right? So if you guys go over there and do a bunch of subscribing and liking, I'm definitely going to want to put out more content.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that video that you uploaded, that's in the description. So if you go watch Matt's video, I definitely recommend you check that out. Like I say, it's only 11 or 17 minutes long, and I guarantee you'll enjoy that video. But once you've watched the video, then you'll see you're rated on his channel. And yeah, at that point in time, just hit on that subscribe button and make sure too, if you're new to YouTube, once you subscribe, even for my channel, is you have to hit that bell notification so you get the notifications when he does produce or upload videos. And then once you've done that, the algorithm will get to learn and it'll put that in the recommended section. But anyways, like I say, I really appreciate Matt coming doing this stream for you for today. And I know it was kind of short notice. And thanks for everyone that showed up in the stream today. I know you folks are patient. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes long we've gone. But like I say, I think we covered quite a bit today. It was a nice icebreaker. We didn't have it set up as I was hoping, but like I say, it was short notice, but I definitely wanted to touch down on this issue because I think it's something that a lot of people need to talk about. I know everyone's getting a little bit upraised and up in arms about the fact that, you know, it's a difficult situation because you're basically you're dealing with people that are genuinely human beings at the end of the day, but they're choosing to work for a very corrupt organization. And, you know, if you want people to make better decisions going forward, the only way to do so is to at least try to hold them to account. I know that's the only thing that's ever worked for me, and I'm sure it's the only thing that's ever worked for you. You have to hear some uncomfortable truths. You have to hear people say some uncomfortable things to you if you're going to grow or learn from your past mistakes or habits or behaviors. And unfortunately, that's what has to take place. Like I say, I've done my own growing. Matt's doing his own growing, and hopefully some of you people will realize that, yeah, it's not like I have any ill intention. I don't have a hate on for cops in particular. I have a hate on for their occupation and for how it's set up and how they're enforcing it.
Yeah, the rioters, the cops, the courts, the judges, they're all misguided. They don't have the facts. They've all have public educations. You know, they haven't had the time to really think of these concepts. Life is busy. We understand that. So all we want to do is get the message through to the population that the same way as here in 2020, we can look back and pretty much everyone can look back on history and say, hey, probably wasn't a good idea to have slavery. Well, we want to get the ideas of freedom to that where, well, it's probably not a good idea to have a institution with a monopoly on the use of force. We want to get it to almost that exact same mentality of, wow, that was ludicrous. How do we ever act like that? And once we do that, we can enlighten ourselves.
Right on, Matt. All right. Well, like I say, I'm going to tie up this stream, folks. So I really appreciate everyone that has shown up today, and we'll see you in the next one. This is Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.
See you guys later.